All right, time again. Are we live? I think we are. Hello all and welcome back to the Women's Football Chat Live. It's Women's FA Cup action continuing today as we continue with the FA Cup fourth round. Today, we've got WSL side West Ham travelling to WSL 2 side Newcastle United. Should be a good one today. Yesterday, there was a huge imbalance between the two sides. But this one, Harry, with a team right at the top of the WSL 2, taking on a side near the bottom of the Women's Super League, feels like it could be very competitive.
Yeah, very much so. This is the kind of game that we could be looking at as the relegation playoff come the end of the season. So it should be a very, very close encounter between a side, as you say, in Newcastle, who are really enjoying a season of good football, climbing up the table, only 3 points now off second place, and saying that they are jumping through the tiers, and it could be that come the end of this season they can get WSL promotion. But a big chance tonight to prove themselves against a WSL side. Yes, it isn't one of the strongest in the league, and yes, West Ham have struggled a lot this season, but for Newcastle United, it presents a brilliant opportunity to show and prove they've got the quality to play in the top league, and it shows that this promotion campaign they're currently on is worth its merits, and then we should really be considering them as a side that could cause problems in the best league in the world. So a big opportunity for Newcastle tonight. Also for West Ham for different reasons. They are a side who desperately need a win. Rita Guarino has just got in the job. She this presents a great chance for her to play her football, have 90 minutes where they should be the better side, and a big opportunity to win. Of course it can backfire, and if they do lose this game, then suddenly it goes from bad to worse for West Ham. So a big tie, you feel, for both of these sides. Newcastle to prove themselves against one of the top sides, and for West Ham to finally get a win on the board for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, as you said, this will be as it can be a big proving point for West Ham, but it's going to be very tricky. When you look at some of the other ties, for these sides around them in the table, you'd expect Liverpool will take confidence if they can beat London Bees, which they should do quite comfortably. We saw Everton have a huge victory over West Brom last night, a 5-0 win for them. So for West Ham, having to travel up to the Gateshead International Stadium, having to face a Newcastle side who we know are packed with quality, packed with players who played in the WSL as well before, which I think is really important in times like these. They're players who've been in the biggest games, who have played against oppositions like West Ham. And I think that does make such a big difference. I think that was quite obvious in the West Brom side last night. They didn't really have anyone that could pick them up, especially when they conceded after, in the first 10 minutes. So I think that experience will prove really vital tonight for Newcastle. If they can be very disciplined and they can take the fight to West Ham tonight, I think it will be a very good game. Let's dive into the lineups, and we'll start with the host Newcastle as we are at the Gateshead International Stadium. So we'll begin with the host. It is a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 for Newcastle tonight. In goal, Anna Tamanen. A back four then of Aoife Mannion, Wardlaw, Purfield and captain Demi Stokes. In the midfield pivot, former Aston Villa and former WSL player Jordan Nobbs alongside Joel. On one wing, it's Una Sevenius. On the other, Lumsden. Pike in the 10. And leading the line, it is Shania Hales. So, looking through that lineup, Harry, who are the players to watch out for Newcastle tonight?
Well, I think there's quite a few you could name because it's a squad that have enjoyed a very, very good season, but Sevenius has looked very sharp on the left-hand side. We know the quality that Hales possesses, although she hasn't really shown it this season. Can be a very, very tidy player. Pike in the 10 as well as another player who's had a decent season in front of goal. Top goal scorer in the league, Emily Murphy, is actually on the bench, so again, showing the depth they've got there. But I think it's a squad in Newcastle that overall, especially in attacking areas, have been really consistent. Defensively as well, they've done very, very well, and I think that will be something that is going to come into action a lot tonight. You spoke about the WSL experience, but in that defensive section, you've got Jordan Nobbs in the pivot, you've got Demi Stokes out at left back, you've got Aoife Mannion at right centre half. So it's one of those where you've got a lot of experience in that back line, and that has shone through this season. They're a side that are very hard to break down, don't concede very many goals, and they've looked good going forwards. You couple that together and there's a reason they're fourth in the league and pushing for promotion. Consistency across the park for Newcastle. If they can deliver that tonight, then they could be right on the money to pulling off a good upset here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that Newcastle side packed with quality and experience, arguably. I mean, inarguably, actually, their defence is probably more WSL experience than West Ham's. So that could prove really important. As you say, Shania Hales hasn't had the season that she would have wanted, but after getting the Golden Boot in the WSL 2 last season, this is her audition, really. She's out of contract in the summer. This is her opportunity to prove to WSL sides that she's still got it. This season hasn't been perfect. Newcastle have been a little bit up and down. There's been a lot of change at Newcastle with just a new manager coming. She's only had 2 matches to prepare for this FA Cup tie. So I think for Shania House, it's a huge chance, a huge opportunity if she can be physical. Even if she doesn't get a goal tonight, obviously a goal helps massively. But even if she doesn't, if she can be physical, if she can show that she could adapt to the WSL, that suddenly makes her a much more attractive proposal for potential WSL sides. Let's take a look then at the visitors, West Ham United. It looks like it could either be a 3-4-3, as West Ham have used a lot this season, or a 4-2-3-1. We'll start then with the 3-4-3 because that's probably the more likely lineup. In goal, captain Kinga Zemic. A back three of Endo, Nystrom and Estelle Cascarino. She wasn't able to make her debut last weekend because she had jewellery, which she wasn't allowed. This weekend, though, is able to start. Then in the 4, Morgan on one wing back, Hanshaw on the other, and a midfield pivot of Una Siren and Sara Bracero Carrera. And then a front line of Leila van der Laar, Rico Ueki and Vivian Asai. Interesting then for West Ham this evening. I think this could easily be a 4-2-3-1. Drop Hanshaw into left back, push Morgan up onto one of the wings, Ueki in the 10, something like that. Really excited to see Sara Bracero Carrera, someone I've been saying should be starting or should be at least getting more opportunities at West Ham since the start of this campaign, albeit in a slightly deeper role than we'd want to see her in. But this is much better from West Ham in terms of giving opportunities to players. Do you feel though they have perhaps gone a little bit too rotated for this game? Dropping players like Shakira Martinez, dropping players like Katrina Gorey, who have been so important for them. This is by no means an easy tie. The players on the pitch should still get the job done, but have they rotated too heavily?
I don't think so. I think it's one of those where it's more Guarino setting the standards of where she wants her team to play and the expectation that she goes into every match. I thought Shakira Martinez really, really struggled in the Chelsea game. That, below par, wouldn't even describe it. It was, it was so far off the level she can deliver. And I think that Guarino is also proving a point. Any of that front three could have been dropped for van der Laar tonight. The fact is Martinez, I think, simply comes because that Chelsea game performance was not good enough. And it just shows that Guarino's coming in. And I like that. It's assertive management to come in and immediately show that you can drop anyone. You've got the ability to rotate, and you're very happy to bench certain players if they're not performing well. So I think that, yes, there's a lot of rotation, but I think it's more of West Ham addressing their own issues than putting out a side, than rotating because it's an FA Cup game. But I think I rate that highly from Guarino. She's coming in and kind of, stepping her foot down immediately, it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other way to look at it is Leila van der Laar coming into the side is not a bad footballer. No. I mean, it's an absolute mystery as to why she was only afforded 96 minutes of WSL action so far this season. She should have been handed more opportunities. So I don't think it makes the side weaker, especially as you say, Martinez hasn't been at the level so far this season. So I think it's nice to see van der Laar given that chance. Same goes really for Sara Bracero Carrera. A little bit different because Gorey's still been their best player, but it's great to finally see her given an opportunity. A player they brought in last summer have barely given an opportunity. I think that's been such a problem, and that was one of the biggest frustrations with Rayanne Skinner, especially towards the end of her time in the last 6 months or first months of the season. We never really saw them experiment. It's the same thing that wasn't working week on week. We're seeing Rita Guarino come in, though, want to make a change, want to make a difference. I think that can only be seen as a positive.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that, again, it's also change immediately. She didn't just write losing 5-0 to Chelsea off and just go, oh, that's Chelsea, I'll just put the same 11 players out there and do the same things. She knows that wasn't good enough. She knows that there's more to come from West Ham, so she's going to change it up. She's going to be bold. And as you say, it's, when you've got I think they've got a bit of quality in depth that is shown. Bracero is a phenomenal talent. Van der Laar is a quality player. And these are still players that, can cause Newcastle a lot of problems. So yeah, I really rate it from Guarino. It's a top quality management. And yeah, I like the fact she's shuffled the pack after a poor performance, and she'll be hoping that tonight it pays off.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, welcome to the stream, saying the new Australian's not playing for Newcastle yet. No involvement today, even in the squad for Caitlin Torpey. Obviously, she was announced yesterday, I believe. Very exciting signing, and again proving where the WSL2 is going. We've seen Birmingham City make 2 huge signings, Asoto Miyagawa and I'm going to forget the name because I kept calling her Landhammer earlier. Leidhammer coming in as well. A record transfer for the WSL2, around £500,000 there. So we're seeing a lot of investment now in the league. Newcastle are following suit now, bringing in Torpy. You think that there would be more in terms of investment, especially if they're keen to go up this season. We've already seen Bristol City go and sign Katie Robinson. They're spending a lot of money. They brought Jessie Gale in on loan. We're seeing Birmingham invest. We need to see more from Newcastle. Torpy's a step in the right direction, though. I think, obviously, it's going to be interesting to see what they do now in the second half of the campaign. New manager at the helm in the form of Tanya Oxtoby. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do. They want to go up this season, though. That's quite clear for Newcastle. They were close last season. Ultimately, though, Birmingham and London City just too strong for them. This season, they would have wanted to kick on. It was a slow start to the campaign, but they're still very much in contention. They've got a game in hand on Bristol City above them. They've only got a 3-point gap to bridge. So they can very much do that in their next game week. So, yeah, they're in a strong position, and this would be a great time to make a statement. If they can get a win over West Ham, get themselves to the 5th round of the FA Cup, that also can be a huge money spinner as well for someone like Newcastle. Not that they need money, but if they can get a big tie and they can earn some money, that at least shows to the board that there is money to be made from investing in the women's side.
Yeah, exactly that. I think the next week is a massive one for Newcastle. They've got West Ham tonight, and then next Sunday I believe they travel to Charlton, or they play Charlton, which is going to be a huge game as well for their promotion hope. But yeah, it's one of those, to follow back-to-back promotions. Last year wasn't too bad either, and then this year, if they can get promoted, to pick up 3 promotions in 4 or 5 years would be an incredible feat. And, to not only do that many promotions, but to do it into the top league, it would be quite something. But they've got the investment, they've got the money, and I think that tonight is a massive opportunity for them to not only show they can compete with WSL sides, but also show that they can, not just show they can compete on one-off occasions, but also show that if they do come up, they will have the quality to compete on a consistent basis. And that flips the other way around for West Ham, that, this is West Ham. If they, even if they lose tonight, even if they don't go down, this will show tonight the kind of quality that they could expect to face in the league next season if they do manage to stay up, and who they could be fighting towards the bottom. So a big game for both sides. But as you say, Newcastle, what an opportunity. Big couple of weeks in store now for Tanya Ox to be in their side. But if they come out of it with a couple of wins, then suddenly this season could be a very, very exciting season for the Magpies.
Yeah, absolutely strong showing of support here from the Geordies and the players making their way out onto the field. So let's dive into our predictions. If you're watching along to the live show, get involved in the live chat. Let us know your scoreline predictions. We're going to kick things off here in the studio, though, and we'll start with yourself, Harry. What is your prediction for today's game?
Oh, I tell you what, I didn't back the upset last night, but I think is it time to back the upset? I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to back Newcastle to get the result here. I look at that home crowd and it could make the difference. I do think it'll be tight. I'm going to say Newcastle United to win on penalties after a 1-1 draw across the 120 minutes. I think it'll be the home side to take the lead, and it will be a goal from Lumsden, who's enjoyed an okay season, but I think she'll come up big tonight with a goal. And then I will say an late equaliser from Vivian Asayi to send us to extra time. It will be a very nervy period. No one's going to find the back of the net, and I will back Newcastle to win it from the penalty spot. 1-1 draw in normal time. Newcastle win on penalties.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on board with the upset as well, but for fear of making this a bit boring and both back in the same side, I will say West Ham to win tonight. There is real reason to believe that Newcastle could pull off the upset, but that West Ham side is still packed with quality. I think it's a great opportunity for players. We mentioned how it's a great opportunity for certain Newcastle players. It's a great chance for West Ham players. Leila Vandela, she performs tonight, instantly puts herself in the first team reckoning. Similar situation for Sara Bracera Carrera as well. So, yeah, I think West Ham can get the job done tonight. I'm going to say 2-1 for the Hammers on the road. I'll say goals from Bracera Carrera. I'll say a goal from Rico Ueki. I think the Newcastle goal will come through Shania Hare. It's not been the season she would have wanted, but I think this is the kind of opportunity that she will step up into.
Yeah, I think that also this is a tie that won't be over very quickly. I think it will be competitive all the way through. I also look at the benches for both sides, and I think they've both got quite a bit of quality. I mentioned Emily Murphy for Newcastle, their top goal scorer in the league, which has been brilliant for Ireland as well. And I think she picked up 3 assists in the Man City game where they drew 3-3 and only just lost on penalties in the League Cup. But you also look at the West Ham bench. Poibel's on there, and that could be an opportunity for her tonight if she gets on. New signing Rhea Bowes is also on there. So I think both sides have got a lot to come from their benches as well. So if they are trailing, then this game could definitely be changed. But yeah, this is good. I think this has got the potential to be an FA Cup classic. I really do.
Yeah.
Two sides that I don't think are that far apart in quality. Of course, West Ham got a little bit more, but Newcastle done some special things already this year. I mentioned that draw to Manchester City, but even the fact they're pushing for promotion up against sides that have already been in the WSL, it's been a fantastic season. So yeah, two sides here. This should be a brilliant tie.
Absolutely. Poll and chat is exactly split 50-50.
Wow.
58 votes so far. So make sure to keep voting that if you haven't already. But don't think I've ever seen it as even as we have tonight. It speaks volumes about how good of a game this should be. Poppy Jones going 2-1 Newcastle with Murphy scoring as a super sub. Now that would be fairly dramatic. Dave saying, how are the lasses? And Donkey is saying, I'm feeling maybe 2-1 to Newcastle, Murphy and Nob. So a range of predictions in the live chat. The poll split 50-50. It's going to be interesting to see how this one pans out. Newcastle, a side who we know can compete with sides like West Ham. They were really good in the Women's League Cup this year. I believe they lost on penalties in their final game. And that's what made the difference between them not being able to progress in the competition. But they are a strong side. This will be a big test for a West Ham side who are low on confidence. So should be a good fixture tonight. A really good matchup between these two sides. It will be Newcastle to get us underway here at the Gateshead International Stadium. Shania Hales from the middle, waiting for the referee's whistle to kick us off for yet more FA Cup fourth round action. The whistle blows, Hales knocks it back, and we're underway here in Gateshead. It's Newcastle United taking on West Ham United in the Women's FA Cup fourth round. And it's Newcastle on the ball early here. Wardlaw looking to go down the right-hand side. Tidy play there from Una Savenius. What can she make happen now? Ball in towards the penalty area. Early chance there. Cleared away well. Not dealt with, though, by Vandela. And then lashed away by Una Siren. We saw there immediately Newcastle able to move the ball quickly and instantly putting West Ham under pressure.
Yeah, very bright start. You can tell by the way they've set up Newcastle. Then they're going to come and play their football. We know they like a lot of control. They average the third highest possession in the WSL2 this season. They're going to want to get on the ball and cause West Ham issues.
And Savenius gets the wrong side of Hanshaw again. Header away. All over the place there, though, are West Ham. And I think that's going to go for a Newcastle corner. They look nervy already. Una Savenius getting in behind Hanshaw, looking dangerous, looking direct. If she can pick out someone in the penalty area, they're going to be able to threaten West Ham tonight.
Yeah, it's exactly what you need to do. You need to work out where your opposition's weaknesses are and where you can hurt them. And I think that Hanshaw had a really poor game against Chelsea and has struggled this season. So someone of Savenius' quality could have a lot of joy on this right-hand side tonight.
Yeah, indeed. So Newcastle looking to put more pressure on. Good delivery in there, Shemek. Pushes it away. It's going to fall once again, though, to Joel, who puts the ball into the box. Chance now. Struck, and that's blocked well by Vandela. And now West Ham trying to play out Asayi under pressure, though. Does pick out Leila Vandela with a nice pass into her forward player. Back now into Vivian Asayi. And that's picked off in midfield. Well, great recovering there from Perfield. And they've looked sharper already, Newcastle, than West Ham have. West Ham look sluggish to start here. They need to pick up the tempo.
Yeah, you can tell which side is currently on a bit of a poor run and which side are unbeaten in their last 7 league games. And Newcastle are doing exactly what you need to in these kind of ties. You've got the home crowd with you. Get on top early, get some big tackles in, turn the ball over. Fans can get you up for it, and suddenly the travelling side, no matter what no matter what the quality they've got, you can start to really put them under the pump.
Yeah, indeed. Newcastle thrown then on the far side, and Demi Stokes will go over and collect the ball. Another pitch with a running track around the edge is something we're not accustomed to in the Women's Super League. Something more apparent, though, lower down the divisions. Now that means Demi Stokes has to take some time to go and collect the ball. Newcastle looking to play on this left-hand side, though. Stokes receives it back now, looking to go for the run of Joel. That's dispossessed well, though. But good pressure here on Endo, who does manage to squeeze it into Morgan, and that has gone out of play, though. And it will be a Newcastle throw and Theo Morgan not happy about that.
Yeah, it would have been a tight one on that far side. But again, it just shows Newcastle once again putting Newcastle under pressure. And it's just putting West Ham under pressure and just struggling to play out.
Yeah, indeed. Newcastle again now looking just to keep and ramp up this pressure, if anything. Demi Stokes with the throw once again goes short into Lumsden, who thinks she was fouled there by Fionn Morgan. Bit of a contest between those two emerging already. Does go out low for a West Ham throw. Now Morgan will look to use the line. TNT loving shots to the managers tonight. I would love to see the action though. Morgan headed on well by Asai. And Newcastle bringing it down at the back. Here is Mannion. Shifts it across now into Wardlaw. And back to Aoife Mannion. And across again into Perfield. Goes down the left into Demi Stokes. Stokes looking for the forward pass. Back into Aoife Mannion. Who can now look to try and find a pass. Goes to Demi Stokes on the left-hand side again. Looking to open up the play. Ball down the line. Looking for the run of Lumsden. Endo goes tight. Manages just to force her back. Lumsden takes her on again. Nice movement from the winger. Puts it into the area. And that's just past Shania Hales. Kept alive here though by Hales. Lays it off. Strike now from range. Blocked well by Ava Nystrom. And there, Pike just getting the first shot of the game away really for Newcastle. A good opportunity. Blocked well in there by Ava Nystrom. Here is Ueki. Manages to get away from her marker. Now trying to find an option to the left. Here is Estelle Cascarino. Her debut tonight for West Ham. Hanshaw down the line. Manages to find the run of Bracera Carrera. What can she do in this position? She's going to be forced back initially. And is then dispossessed by Aoife Mannion. Out wide toward Law. Creating the width well here for Newcastle as they look to attack again. Hales pulls into the channel. And that's a blatant foul from Estelle Cascarino. Already struggling to deal with Shania Hales, who spins her. Cascarino pulls her back, and that'll be a Newcastle free kick.
Yeah, West Ham defence under a lot of pressure, and Cascarino there, as you say, gets spun and feels the only reasonable way to stop Hales is to pull her back. But Nystrom already called in to block the first effort of the game a couple moments ago. This is going to be a bit of pressure for West Ham to deal with in these early stages. Newcastle look right up for it, and yeah, that Hammers back five is certainly feeling the pressure at the moment.
And it's Lumsden then over this. She's going to look to try and threaten the goal. Puts it on top of King Ajemic here, and probably a little bit too much on that from Lumsden.
Yeah, got to use those kind of opportunities better. Set pieces, in these kind of ties.
Great pressure there from Hales. Almost forces the mistake from Siren. Bailed out though by Cascarino. Endo back into Nystrom, looking just now to progress the ball for West Ham. So in possession, it is looking like a 4-back for West Ham. Out off the ball, they then do shift back into a 5-back. Cascarino, that is picked off by Pike in the middle. Header won though by Bracera Guerrero. Ueki dispossessed too easily. And the ball, well, Lumsden caught there under the ball. One high though, Pike trying to feed it through into Shania Hales, unable to pick out the number 9. And the ball down the line into Vivian Asai. Hanshaw. Passed inside to Bracera Carrero. Cascarino. Goes back to Jemic. And West Ham just have done well to weather the early storm. The question will now be whether they can get into this game. They're just struggling a little with the physicality. Ueki out to the left-hand side. Here's Hanshaw. Steps forward with the ball well. Now Vivian Asai holding the ball on the touchline. Wants to come inside. Now Asai will burst down the line. West Ham break into the penalty area. Ball across the box. Good goalkeeping there from Tamminen. Gets down well and jumps on that low cross.
Yeah, that's exactly where West Ham can cause issues for Newcastle tonight. Really good from Asai. Just stands Wardlaw up and then breezes past her with a good turn of pace. The right back struggling to keep with her, and I think Asai will be disappointed. Looked to cut it across goal where there wasn't really any options available. Maybe should have opted to just lash it at the near post, but well watched by Tamminen. But West Ham just showing that even when they can get the ball down there, we saw Ueki with a good turn, move it nicely up the pitch towards Asai. If they can get those forward players on the ball, then they will look to hurt Newcastle. But I think Newcastle will expect that. They're playing their football. They're playing quite positively. They are going to give up chances tonight to West Ham, but we know that the Hammers haven't been the most clinical side in front of goal this season.
That's a great ball in behind now, looking for Lumsden, who's going to look to play it across the box. What a cut back to Hales, but Nystrom able to deal with that. Ueki pounces on the clearance. Now Morgan, who's going to knock it down the line, and that an optimistic one, from Fionn Morgan, unable to pick out a teammate, and Newcastle back on the ball again.
I find it very interesting that both sides have kind of dropped into the roles that they've kind of played this season, where Newcastle have been the side on the ball and being the positive side that are dominating the play, and West Ham are, behind the ball and playing counter-attacking football.
Yeah, it's just the problem with West Ham trying to progress again, and Newcastle are strong pressers, ball through the lines. They're looking for a teammate cut out well, though, by Hanshaw. Ball inside from a side to Bracera Carrera. It bounces around a lot, but it's back in possession of Newcastle, and Wardlaw now progressing the play. Looks just to lift it in behind. That's a great ball into Lumsden, who heads towards goal, and King Ajemic able to adjust and claim that one with relative ease. But the right ball, fantastic ball from Wardlaw. Unlucky that it doesn't come to anything on that occasion. Vanderler, great hold up, needs support now. Has Morgan in the wide area. Now looks to shift inside. No option apparent, and we'll go into Una Siren. Hales, though, picks that off, and Newcastle can break away again now. Pike shifts it inside, ball in behind, and that's over here. I'll run through to King Ajemic, but I'm enjoying the pace this game's being played at. Both sides aren't afraid to take risks this evening. West Ham arguably should be more afraid to take risks with the way that they keep giving the ball away. But neither side is afraid to take a risk. They're both going for it in these early stages. And Newcastle look confident at the moment.
Yeah, they very much do. I thought, they've got a bit of quality. It's going to come down tonight to which side can take their chances, because it is very end-to-end. It's quite a direct game. But both sides have also got players that are very good, technically and good on the ball. So, yes, it's a direct game, but that doesn't mean that, either side can't get the ball down and play football. I think, as you say, West Ham have struggled to play out the back and to play football. Newcastle, though, we know they are very good at getting the ball down and playing their stuff. And as I say that, Wardlaw takes a poor touch and it runs out of play. But we know they like to have the ball, and we know they are very good at keeping possession. So it's going to be not. It will be played at a good pace, because both sides have got those options to either play through the lines or just be direct and go over the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Here is Cascarino. Spins well out of pressure there, but it's a good recovery from Joel to get back in, knock it out of play. Cascarino again then. And surveying her options, throws it inside. Savanias gets a touch. That doesn't take it away, though, from Morgan. And Bracera Carrera can't quite keep that in play. So a Newcastle throw in once again. This is the best chance off the half, though, for Lumsden. Not sure she could have done much more with it. It's a ball into the box. She heads it on target. It's a difficult one. You'd want her to probably drive a little more power through it, but she hasn't done too much wrong there.
Yeah, not at all. It was a great ball in from Wardlaw, and the run from Lumsden in between. The run came in between Morgan and Endo, and that will be where there could be a point of confusion for West Ham tonight, with the shifting from a 4 to a 5, depending on whether they've got the ball or not. No one picked her up there. Endo and Morgan have got to talk about that. Who is going to pick up Lumsden when we're defending? Because Morgan let her go. She slopped through the gap, and West Ham were lucky to not be punished for it.
Ultimately, they've both been fairly poor in the air tonight, and that is something Newcastle can exploit. I mean, it's quite pointed. We're seeing Wardlaw on the ball a lot on this right-hand side, looking to deliver, especially towards the far post. Hales, great hold up from her. Knobs now back into Pike. Knocks it out to the left-hand side. Here's Stokes. Returns it to Pike. Pike into the forward player who's muscled off there by Leila Vanderler, and here come West Ham. Lovely exchange. Vanderler looking to knock it in behind. Mannion stands her ground against Asayi, though. Asayi wins it back. There was a pull there on Asayi. At least she thought so. Referee not interested. And Asayi overplays it and once again gets frustrated. We saw a lot of this from Asayi in the game against Chelsea on Sunday. Stopping and getting frustrated rather than just playing.
Yeah, I really didn't like that. She still had possession, and rather than concentrating on what she was doing with the ball at her feet, decides to look at the referee and put her hands up, and ultimately it leads to her losing the ball. I don't like that from players. Just you've got the ball, get on with the game, and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, indeed. Here is Knobs, lifts it. That's a fantastic little poke into the feet of Lumsden. Now Endo, though, uses her strength well to muscle her off the ball, and Lumsden clips her as she looks to break away.
Yeah, you feel this is going to be the key point. I did put Lumsden as my goal scorer for Newcastle, so that's looking pretty positive already. But yeah, Endo versus Lumsden is going to be a good battle tonight, you feel. A lot of the play coming down or starting on Newcastle's right to then try and end up on their left-hand side, and it's working well, but it doesn't mean they've also got threat if they do choose to come down the right-hand side, and that's something that Cascarino and West Ham have got to be aware of.
And Short shifts it inside to Bracera Carrera Uweki. That's a fantastic turn and knocks it wide into Fionn Morgan, and West Ham with numbers forward now. Morgan waiting for the overlapping run. It's not coming from Endo though. It does come. It is too late, but she does find her. Endo across the box. Too close to the goalkeeper. And Tamanum with no issues there. But Morgan delayed for what felt like an age, waiting for the supporting run. That did then pick out Endo well with the ball in the box. Not one of high quality.
Yeah, when you wait that long, you kind of give away what you're going to do, and Newcastle could set up and prepare, and yeah, the ball from Endo wasn't really where it needed to be.
Yeah, indeed. Stokes. Back now into Purfield. Bounces it off Nobbs. Back into Purfield. Nobbs again exchanges once more with the defender. Nobbs again. Wants to extend the pitch, wants to pick out someone in behind. Nothing on though. And so Newcastle will go backwards. Tamanen out to the right-hand side. Mannion drills it into Pike in there. He's unable to hold on to the ball. Joel battling away. Loses out though. And so that will be a West Ham throw. I bet it's been very combative for the opening quarter of an hour here. Newcastle, arguably the better technical side in the first 15 minutes. And when West Ham have come forward, they've just failed really for that final ball, which has been a bit of an issue for them all season. To be fair, the combinations in the final third, no ability to create opportunities. A throw in now on the near side for West Ham though. And it's Cascarino to take. Plays it into Hanshaw. Good hold up. One back in there by Savenius though, who does go back into Mannion. Tamanen. Just looking to carry it forwards. Knocks it out into Purfield. And wide into Stokes. Back now to Purfield. Hales now, who drops in to receive. Back to Purfield again. You'd be excused for forgetting which of these two sides is the WSL team. Newcastle 60% of the ball so far. West Ham happy to just sit a little deeper and try and make it difficult for Newcastle to play through them. Mannion. Back across into Tamanen, who steps up between the centre halves here. Happy to be brave in possession there. Purfield now wants to introduce some verticality. Header one though by Morgan out of play. And Newcastle will look to take it quickly.
Yeah, that's what I like about Newcastle. That is that they have that option. They're very good at holding on to the ball, but if they need to, they can be direct and can look to get the ball up the pitch quickly.
Nobbs tries to play it around the corner. Too fast though. And Shania Hales not quite on the same wavelength. And Shemek will collect the ball with little issue.
Yeah, I tell you what, if that Travella through the ball had come off, that would have been one of the best assists we've seen in the FA Cup for a while from Jordan Nobbs. Asking a lot of Hales there.
Una Siren out to the left-hand side. Hanshaw now wants to knock it in behind. Great ball into the run of Vivian Asai. And Wardlaw, has she clipped her there? Not given by the referee. And Asai again there. It's difficult now because I can't tell if she's been clipped or whether she's dived. But either way, it's the way that she's acting is giving the referees an excuse not to give that as a free kick.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see that back.
Ueki shifts it into Vandala through the lines to Asai. Her touch is heavy though, and that bounces through to Tamanen.
Yeah, again, that's not a bad chance, but it can't bring the ball down. Tamanen sharp off her line, and it pays off.
It's hard to say though whether Wardlaw made any contact with Vivian Asai. The two looked close in proximity, but the way Asai went down, she was definitely trying to buy it at the very least.
Yeah, I couldn't tell whether she kicked the ground or whether she had been tripped up.
Picked off there, that pass from Purfield. Ueki into Vandala. Can she take on Purfield? Leila Vandala trying to shift it back to Bracera Carrera. One back well by Joel. And now it's with Cascarino. Shift it into Bracera Carrera. Wide now with Hanshaw, who has the option in the half space of Bracera Carrera. Gets away well from Joel. Now Ueki. Can she find a forward pass? Vandala back towards Ueki. Lovely give and go. Ueki, though, running out of room to work with. Wardlaw assertive there in her defending. And Newcastle will look to play out. That a little clumsy, though. And a strong chance from Wardlaw. The right side of the law. But Asayi has gone down injured. The referee has stopped the game for it.
Yeah. Physical tackle from Wardlaw, but I don't think there's anything in that second one. Yeah, nothing in that. Firm. Might have caught Asayi, but got the ball before. It doesn't really matter. And I think maybe a welcome break here for West Ham. Well, that was a good couple minute spell there where they're just starting to pin Newcastle back and forcing them a little bit more direct, which, will lead to West Ham turning the ball over a little bit more. This is the tackle from earlier. She just falls over her own feet.
But then she should be booked because that is quite a blatant simulation.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because she does. Yes, she falls over her own feet, which she can't really do much about. So I don't think she's potentially deliberately thrown herself on the floor, but it's not a foul. She's just tripped over her own feet. It happens.
Well, we've got this moment. Welcome to the stream. The regular Shamadizzle, Kevin, welcome as well. Matt as well. He became a member yesterday. Thanks again for becoming a membership. It's the best way to support us. Shamadizzle saying, thoughts on West Ham parting ways with Tissiak and Denton soon. Both big losses. Not much they could have done about either of them. I think Denton being replaced by Rhea Bowes is a really nice signing. We'll speak more about that on the transfer show on Monday, but really like Rhea Bowes, really like that addition for West Ham. I think it's almost a like-for-like replacement in that sense. And with the way they like to use that wing-back, I think it's a sensible addition. I think with Tissiak, it's a much more difficult one now to replace. I think a back three of Tissiak, Nystrom and Cascarino looks a lot stronger than what they do have now. But we'll have to wait and see what West Ham look like in future weeks. If they do bring in some centre-half cover, then they'll look better. I think Uendo's really struggled in her opportunities, but yeah. And Blumu isn't playing at Shamadizzle. She did come back into the starting lineup last weekend, but it doesn't feature from the off here.
Surprising, I think that one. I thought Blumu looked good when they came forwards, and especially now they've shifted to a 4. I don't think Hanshaw's been very good.
It's only a 4 in possession, to be fair. So they're not really pushing Hanshaw higher. But yeah, I get your point.
Yeah.
Ball in behind, and Nobbs has gone too early then. That has been flagged for offside.
I have to say, I do like this Newcastle midfield 3 where they all seem to just keep popping up in different positions. Sometimes Nobbs is the furthest forward. Sometimes it's Pike. You'd expect it to more naturally be Pike. Nobbs isn't offside there, but
she's nailed that run. Rightfully frustrated with the assistant referee's decision.
She looks offside because she's so far ahead of all the other defenders, but that's because no one goes with her.
Yeah, she just nails the run.
Yeah.
Cascarino sends it long, and Mannion wins the header. Drops now for Siren, looking to play out to the right-hand side. Endo shifts it wide. Morgan now into Ueki. Strong challenge from Demi Stokes. Forces Ueki back. She's just brilliantly there to hold on to the ball. Looks to reverse it in behind. And that will run through. Perfield knocking it out of play, choosing the safe option.
Yeah. Again, West Ham have been brighter in the last few minutes. Newcastle just doing the basics so defensively. They're not trying to overplay it. They're not trying to overcomplicating it. They're sensing they're under a bit of pressure and doing well just to clear their lines.
Yeah. Header. Now Joel able to get up and win it. One back high at the pitch here by Verena Hanshaw. And now it's Aoife Mannion who's being chased down by Asayi. And that comes off Asayi and out for a Newcastle throw-in. Wardlaw with the throw. And Mannion's gone slightly higher here with Savenius dropping deeper just to fill into the spot. Rosario Carrera, that's a little bit of a loose pass. Finds his way back though to Eva Nystrom. And Endo shifting it wide into Morgan on the touchline. Goes back, all the way back to Nystrom. And now Cascarino, who wants to try and be a little more urgent in attack. That too urgent though. And an overhit pass running through to the Newcastle goalkeeper.
Yeah, a bit too much on it from Cascarino, but again, it shows West Ham getting the ball forward, starting to make things happen, and you do feel that although Newcastle was still enjoying quite a bit of the ball, they're not having that much of it further up the pitch, which is, exactly where West Ham don't want them. It'll be interesting how this game progresses, whether Newcastle can find a way now to try and get a bit higher up, because West Ham's are doing a good job at the moment of just keeping them at bay.
Yeah, indeed. One back in midfield, well there by Joel. Now out into Stokes. Mannion. Plays it inside. Nobbs back to Wardlaw, who goes down the line. Lovely play. Savenius. Nobbs in behind. Perfect ball. And that's really good defending from Morgan to recover. Lumsden in a great position. Morgan, though, able to get around her and win back possession.
Yeah, really good defending from Morgan. Not an easy one at all. Lumsden managed to get the wrong side of her in the penalty area. Very easy to give away a free kick in that situation. But Morgan does well to not dive in. Physical, but the right side of the law, and manages to get the ball to spill back to her goalkeeper.
Absolutely. Cascarino now looking to progress it down the left-hand side. Here's Verena Hanshaw, who darts inside of the ball, picked off well by Joel, who'll carry it forwards through a crowd of bodies. Brilliant drive from Joel here. Looking to find Hales, lifted into the box. Nystrom heads it away, only as far as Demi Stokes, who sends it towards goal. Not much of a shot, though. It was more of a poke throw, and it's claimed easily by Zemic.
Yeah, I think Stokes has got to do better there to try and make it a more meaningful pass. As you say, it just felt like a prod in the general direction of the goal. Brilliant, though, from Joel, and then the ball in just in front of Hales, but well defended again by West Ham.
It's always going to be a difficult one to pick out. Shania Hales in that position. Brilliant in the air, but Nystrom, also quite a tall player, was in front as well of Hales. So, yeah, it was always going to be a difficult one. Foul there given against Wardlaw, as she was deemed to have pulled back Asai. And West Ham were trying to play it down the left-hand side. Frustration as well from Guarino there, who also called for the foul.
Yes, again, another good battle brewing on this side. Wardlaw, but has been very aggressive up against Asai, and I think Asai is starting to get a little bit frustrated by the fact that she's not having as much joy as she probably would have anticipated. This is the kind of game that a player like Vivian Asai could take by the scruff of the neck and single-handedly win for West Ham. You think back to their league game against Crystal Palace last season, where Asai just ran riot. They're the kind of games she can have, but tonight and this season, to be honest, across the whole campaign, just not had it her own way at all.
Absolutely. Nystrom into Cascarino. Looks just to lift the ball in behind, held up well by Leila Vandela. And now Asai, who shifts it out to Endo. Option on the right-hand side. Morgan wants to take on Demi Stokes now. And that's blocked well by Stokes. Back out again into Phil Morgan, who drives into the penalty area. Good challenge from Pike, and Stokes knocks it out of play. Ueki picks off in there well. Here's Pike. Tamarin. Out wide into Stokes again. Newcastle looking to progress. A nice pass there into Lumsden, who can't quite hold on to the ball. But it's out of play, and that'll be a Newcastle throw-in once more. But yeah, I think Newcastle, all things considered, have started more positively. Reflected in the poll in chat, 59% backing Newcastle now, 41% backing West Ham. So the upset, almost more the favoured result based on the first 27 minutes. Here is Tamarin. And a pass there into Lumsden, who drops to receive it. Stokes tries to find Hales. Going to drop in there again for Lumsden, who goes down the line. Hales battling away with Morgan, comes off Hales, and that's out for a West Ham throw. The other Zafriel saying doesn't half demonstrate the closing gap between the double and the Championship here. Indeed, I think the more and more investment we see from the bottom of the pyramid, we saw it from London City last season, spending a lot of money getting into the WSL, and then they've invested a lot, and that's forced the other clubs in the league to really up their investment. And we're seeing it more and more. Sides like Wolves have put a lot of money in. They're now top of the Women's National League, absolutely romping the Women's National League North. And yeah, if we keep seeing sides like that, it's going to put pressure on those at the top to keep investing. Mannion, strong challenge there to win the ball off of Vivian Asai. Now plays it forwards into Nobbs, who shifts it wide to Savenius. Wants to take on Hanshaw, who just stands their ground. That's out for a Newcastle throw-in.
Yeah, haven't seen too much of Savenius so far in this game, but definitely a player that could have a big impact. Looked sharp in the first couple of minutes, but then, as I say, a lot of it has kind of come down that left-hand side with Lumsden for Newcastle.
Yeah, they're just struggling to break down what is almost a low block from West Ham. They can pretty much go player for player, the Hammers, and it's difficult here for Savenius to get a bit of space to work with. Same on the other side for Lumsden. They're almost, and in fact, they're doubling up on both wingers at the moment. Asai forced back there. And another mistake. Vivian Asai's really struggled in this game, I have to say. Just seems to keep giving the ball away. And we saw similar on Sunday, but you've always got the excuse of you're playing against Chelsea. There's no real excuse for tonight, though. Asai really struggling to adapt. Held up well there by Savenius. Wardlaw, ball into the box. Cleared away by Nystrom. Stokes. And Joel will be forced backwards. Here's Mannion. She wants to switch the play. Thinks better of it. Perfield. Lifting it forwards. Here's Nobbs now, who brings it down the box. Drops it to Una Savenius, who takes it past Hanshaw. Well, Savenius clipping it inside. A good claim, though, from King Ajemic. And Newcastle there, just disrupting West Ham. An unexpected ball, really, in behind. Cascarino doesn't jump for this. Wins the second contact, but it's too easy for Savenius here to take it past Hanshaw. Ball in the box was disappointing, really, to be that close to the keeper.
Yeah, really good move, though, from Newcastle. Too easy from Hanshaw again. I think we saw a bit of that defending in the Chelsea game.
Chance now for Asai. Wardlaw caught out. Chance for Asai, and just leans back and launches that over the bar, cutting inside from the left-hand side. And unable there to trouble the keeper.
Yeah, should be disappointed. Wardlaw dives in, gets it wrong. Asai is through. I don't think Mannion does much here to put her off. I think
she stands her up. She makes Asai make the decision, and that's so important because she doesn't make a decision and just launches it towards goal.
Yeah, does sort of started cutting inside, but as you say, left a nice kind of path to just do something better with the shot. But that is blasted well over, and that is a sign of a player who is really struggling for form in front of goal at the moment.
I have to say, no, I think with what Mannion's done well there, though, is the body positioning. She's forcing Asai either wide, in which case she's not going to get a shot away, or to try and take Mannion on directly. I think Mannion does really well there, to be fair. Here is Cascarino. Looking for a forward option. Bounces it off Bracera Carrero. Cascarino. Lifting it in behind. Looking for the run of Leila Vandela. He's going to chase this down. Mannion tries to see it out, and that's really smart stuff there. The experience of Eva Mannion paying off, as she's just able to see Vandela out of play, and Newcastle will get the ball moving quickly. Tamerlan exchanges with Perfield.
I have to say I do like Eva Mannion as that right centre half. I think at right back in the WSL, especially towards the latter days of her United career, I think she really struggled when she got isolated and you had these fast, tricky wingers running at a one-on-one. But in terms of that physicality element, she's really suited to being that centre half up against a striker.
It's also less fatiguing, which means those high-intensity sprints are easy to pull off. If you're playing as that right back and you've got to support the attack a bit and then you've got to get back really quickly, that constant running is so much more difficult to maintain.
Yeah.
And I think Mannion is much more suited to that right centre-half role where she's able just to drop off a few yards and get an advantage over the attackers. She's not fatiguing herself quite as much. That's definitely seeing her have a much stronger performance than what we were used to at Manchester United. Jemic lifts it out towards the right-hand side. Header one in there by Lumsden. Will drop for Nobbs. Goes back, though, to Perfield.
Just love watching Jordan Nobbs. Just what a player. The work rate, the intensity is still there for her.
Wardlaw pokes it forwards. Here's Joel, does well to take it past Bracera Carrero. Ball across the box. Cascarino hacked at the ball, and that one clipping over her own goal. But a moment there where I think the goalkeeper would have had a heart-in-mouth moment expecting that to go into the own net. Joel putting it across the box well. Cascarino didn't know much about where that ball was going.
Yeah, it's been a tricky first 32 minutes in Claret and Buva Cascarino. Not a nice game to come into. She's been really put through the ringer.
Shot now from Savenius. That's blocked. And Morgan will try and get there. Stokes, though, sweeping up nicely. Plays it forwards now into Joel. Nobbs. Back to Stokes, and Newcastle will just slow down and try and get back into shape because, as it stands, Stokes is at right back. Nobbs. Stokes again under pressure, finds Mannion. Now Wardlaw. And here's Perfield in a slightly different role. Carrying the ball forwards here. Shifted wide. Lumsden drives the ball inside. Lifting it over the top. That not the best decision, and that's into the hands of King Hashemek once again. Now Ueki with Akers to drive into for the Hammers. Slowing it down though. Letting her teammates get into position. It does now go backwards. I think you've just got to go quickly there and try and break West Ham. Instead, they let Newcastle take their shape, and that a ball down the line aiming for Asai, knocked out a play by Joe.
Yeah, West Ham have got to make more of those opportunities when Newcastle do come forwards and don't take their chance, because it usually leaves a bit of a counter opportunity for them to try and catch Newcastle higher up the pitch. But as you say, when you do slow it down like that, you're not taking advantage of it.
Yeah, Hanshaw. Into Rico Ueki there, runs off the shoulder, and that's cleared away. And she was offside as well in there, Rico Ueki.
Yeah, again, well worked by Newcastle from the throat. Just force it out, pack West Ham in, and turn the ball back over.
Yeah, indeed. Pike. Perfield back into Pike. Tamarin out to Aoife Mannion on this right-hand side. Now look to progress down the line. Here's Wardlaw. Drives inside with the ball. Asai dragging her back. Mannion again. Shifts the play. A lovely driven pass into Perfield, who can carry it forwards now. Stokes holds the width well for the Magpies. Force back into Perfield. Now Mannion. She'll try and lift it forwards. Hales brings it down well. Ueki physical, but on the right side of the law. Here's Vandela. Carries it forwards. Can she find a teammate? Pike just shuffling her wide. Still shuffling her wide. Vandela. Tidy footwork, but nowhere to go. And Stokes then makes a defensive action. Lumsden on the ball. Stokes clipping it forwards. Searching for Hales. Morgan picks it off well. Endo. And now Estelle Cascarino. Siren. Cascarino. Knocks it wide into Hanshaw. Back to Cascarino. Lovely pass inside there to Sara Bracera Carrera. Ball in behind. Asai bearing in on goal. And is that a great tackle or a foul? It's been given as a penalty. Wardlaw bringing down Asai in the box. And the referee with a big decision to make. Goes penalty. Will this see Wardlaw dismissed? I want to see a replay on that. Great ball through the lines from Bracera Carrera. Asai gets there. That looks like a great tackle. On the other angle, I think she gets the ball.
Yeah, I think she gets a foot on it. I really do.
It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. I think it's difficult. Penalty for West Ham, and that really's come out of nowhere. They've struggled to create chances. A ball in behind, though. Newcastle called out. Asai bearing in on goal. Wardlaw bringing her down. It's very difficult to say whether she got to that ball. I think it was the right tackle to make. But Tamarin now with the opportunity to stop her. Asai with a chance from the spot to give West Ham the lead in this game. Vivian Asai steps up. And no error from the penalty spot. A stutter to a run, but no error with the finish. Newcastle United 0, West Ham United 1. A valiant 37 minutes from Newcastle, but a tempting pass in behind, catching them out. And West Ham convert then from the spot. Dubious penalty call. But Vivian Asai makes no mistake.
Yeah, much needed goal for Asai. Really struggled in front of goal. Muted celebrations for it, which I think sums up how her evening unfolded. But a big goal wasn't the best penalty. I think she, to be honest, I think she gets very lucky because that is not a stutter, that is a stop. But gets away with one there. But Asai finally finds the back of the net. Tough one for Newcastle because they played well in the first 38 minutes. And a bit of a 50-50 challenge for that penalty. But it's been a very competitive game so far. But West Ham just with that edge and making the moments count.
Yeah, West Ham, as you say, I mean, that's the quality, isn't it? Sara Carrera, I don't know why she's not been used more this season. Because that ball in behind, it just causes all kinds of issues. Wardlaw tries to get it initially. It takes a touch off her and runs through to Asai. Lumsden now, brilliant footwork. Endo using her body to win it back. Lumsden battling back the ball. Now needs some support. But it's cleared away by Fionn Morgan. And out for a West Ham throw. But yeah, it's difficult. I think Wardlaw makes a great attempt for the ball. It's just unlucky. I'm not sure she catches enough of it, though, or any of it in actual fact. It probably was the right call from the referee. Difficult one. She didn't have the best angle on it either, but it's just disappointing for Newcastle. They've been the far superior side, really, in the opening part of this game. They've been able to control most of the possession, 62% of the ball. And outside of that opportunity for West Ham, they've created very little. Wardlaw. But ultimately, Newcastle haven't threatened enough in the final third as well, it has to be said.
Yeah, I think...
Stenius now, though, takes on Hanshaw well. That takes a tough touch off Hanshaw, and that will be apparently it didn't. That will be a goal kick.
And that is the prime example of what we're talking about, that Newcastle had a lot of the ball, but they'll be disappointed with their output. You know, crosses like that from Stenius have got to be better. I think the quality in the final third from Newcastle is potentially lacking, and it's a weird one because, as we say, the likes of Hales haven't had the season they've wanted. I think the wingers have had decent campaigns, but I'll be honest, I look at Emily Murphy sat on the bench tonight. Has been playing for Ireland this season, has looked really, really sharp, picked up plenty of contributions, top goal scorer in the league, and as much as Hales is, a quality player on her day, it's not. It's one of those where I'm surprised that potentially Hales has been given the start here.
Yeah. That's another war of words there between Wardlaw and Asai.
Yeah, there was a trip off the ball from Wardlaw. I think she got away with one there. But that is really starting to brew into about. It's been a couple of times now that they've collided. A couple of them have been fouled, a couple of them haven't.
Well, Cohen said, I think that's the only time Asai has been fouled.
Yeah.
Well, has actually been fouled, yeah. Outside of that penalty, a few simulations. Mannion. Down the line into Charlotte Wardlaw. Pass inside now. Joel lifting it over the top, and that will bounce through.
I think the other encouraging thing for Newcastle has got to be that there's been no silly mistakes. Of course, the penalties have been given away, but that wasn't a tackle of desperation or disaster defending. That it was just an attempt to win the ball back that was wrong. I don't necessarily mind that. And it was very marginal. It wasn't like a last-ditch flying attempt to win the ball back. It was a pretty decent challenge. Just it just happened to catch the player, and I think that's been the encouraging thing.
Great ball in behind here for West Ham United. Fionn Morgan breaks the defensive line. That ball into the box though, almost a ball out of the box as it bounces through to Hanshaw on the other side, blocked well by Mannion. That'll be out for a corner.
Yeah, Mannion a bit surprised there, I think, to end up blocking it. Kind of Hanshaw putting it straight at her, but good. 5-10 minutes from West Ham, they're looking to end the half strong, and they've got the lead, and you feel if they can get another goal in this, the last few minutes of this first half, then they could really put themselves into a comfortable position this tie from what feels like absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. They've struggled really to get the ball forward. They've struggled to break the Newcastle defensive line, but the first time they did penetrate it, the first time they did get in behind, and that's when they cause issues, and we need to see more of that from West Ham. The key part of it was Sara Carrera. It's the only time she's really got in the final third and been able to be creative. Ball in towards the front post and flicked on the wrong direction though from Ueki. And Nobbs now flicks it past Morgan, wants to take her on. Morgan stands her ground nicely though.
Yeah, kind of not the player that you want in there. Nobbs is very capable, of course, but if that is a Savenius or a Lumsden or maybe a player a bit more technical quality, more of a tricky winger to try and beat Morgan, there could have been a bit of a battle. Nobbs tried her best, but couldn't find a way past the West Ham. Well, I would say winger, but wing back more like.
Yeah. Well, winger by trade, wing back by role in this West Ham team. Rosero Carrera now out towards the left-hand side. And it's Cascarino. Nystrom. Shifts it into Endo. Looks to go down the line. Held on too well by Ueki, who delays. Knocking it into Morgan. Does now find the wide player. Morgan. Ball into the box. And Mannion there. Able to deal with a fairly tame cross. And Stokes now trying to pick out Shania Hales with a long pass, but it's not well hit. West Ham recover it once again. Cascarino knocks it wide. Here's Hanshaw. Down the line into Bracero Carrera. He wants to take on Pike now. Pass back into Siren. Hanshaw, who's got Savenius for company, does force her back into Siren. Nystrom. And now Cascarino. Hanshaw. Want to drive inside. Force back though to Cascarino. Ueki. Out towards the right-hand side. Blocked by Stokes. Another 2 minutes of additional time in this first half. Here's Morgan. Ueki. Siren. Into Vandela. Tries to play it through the lines. Vandela backing away for the ball. Tries to cut it back there, and it's dealt with by Mannion.
You just feel that Newcastle need to get through these remaining 2 minutes. The tide has really swung in this game. Newcastle surviving a little bit now. West Ham really looking to kind of push their advantage while they are on top.
The tide has swung.
Has it? The pendulum.
I was going to say, the tide turns, the pendulum swings. Now
the tide is swinging.
The tide is swinging. Ball back now into Una Siren. Endo. Into Morgan. Back towards you, Endo. Now Nystrom can go into Zemek. But I do agree, I think we are seeing West Ham look a little more comfortable on the ball, perhaps. Newcastle a little deflated after conceding. Cascarino knocks it wide into Asayi. Savenius gets back in. Asayi, can she be dangerous? Darts inside. Gives away possession though as the pass is straight to Aoife Mannion. Wardlaw into Nobbs. Can't quite bring that one down. And West Ham will hold possession and probably stay out the half from here. Ueki, run off the shoulder, bursts away from Perfield. Now goes backwards. Sara Bracero. Morgan. And it's out wide again into Ueki. A pass inside. Una Siren now opening up the space. Tries to feed it through the lines and Stokes with the clearance. Cascarino now flicks it forwards and that will be the last action of the first half here at the Gateshead International Stadium. Newcastle United 0, West Ham United 1. The deadlock broken from the penalty spot as Vivian Asayi was chopped down and then converted. Unfortunate for Charlotte Wardlaw, had a really good game up until that point, but just misjudging the tackle somewhat. And Vivian Asayi was more than happy to go down and then take the penalty. Outside of that, Newcastle have been the better side on the ball, struggled though to create chances of real threat, and West Ham have punished that inefficiency and lead by a goal to nil going into the break.
Yeah, a very competitive, very good half, very, exactly what we want to see from 45 minutes of FA Cup action. Yes, there's a division between the two sides, but a well-fought 45 minutes. Newcastle, I think they showed exactly what we spoke about in the build-up, that they can compete, they can bring and take the fight to a West Ham side who are in the WSL right now, but are struggling. And I think that especially early doors, we did see a few of those struggles for West Ham. They grew into the game, got that goal from the penalty spot, and that towards the end of that first half, we did see quite a very strong period of pressure where they looked to find a second and give themselves an even more commanding lead. But 1-0, still a very tight scoreline. Newcastle are very much still in the contest, so should be an exciting second half of football. But yeah, a first half that was very competitive. I think both sides would like to be a bit stronger in front of goal, but I think it is the kind of game that could definitely breed some goals as it goes on.
Yeah, it definitely can. I think what we're seeing is two sides growing into the game. Newcastle, I think, started faster. West Ham, it took time, but once they got that goal, they start to look a little bit more assured of themselves, start to move the ball a little bit quicker, and starting to be a bit more threatening in the final third. I think the key catalyst for West Ham looking a little bit stronger towards the end of the half was Bracero Carrera being higher up the field, being able to be creative. It was her ball in behind that created that issue and led, of course, to Charlotte Wardlaw committing the foul for the penalty. So West Ham have got to learn from that. They need to get creative players into the final third. That's I think been one of the biggest issues this season for West Ham is you've got a fantastic front three full of goal scoring potential, but if no one's there to supply them with chances, how are they going to score?
Yeah.
And West Ham were really good at breaking in behind last season. We've not really seen them be able to do that enough this campaign. We've not really seen them be able to be as much of a threat in transition. So they need to be able to break teams down. Newcastle, arguably similar issues prevailing. Chance creation's been a real problem for them in this first half. They're able to dictate the ball quite well, but when they get into the West Ham half, they haven't found a way through that West Ham defensive structure. A couple of times we've seen balls floated into the area, tempting balls into the box, but nothing that's been a concrete, clear-cut opportunity so far for the Magpies. I think they'll be frustrated by that, by the fact that they dictated the ball, by the fact that they were able to be fairly dominant against, especially possessionally dominant, against a side like West Ham, a side in the division above. But ultimately that goal didn't quite come. And that, I think, will be frustrating. They haven't taken advantage of that.
Yeah, as you say, especially when we know they've got the quality, they've got the players who can create a lot of chances. I think that the crosses that have gone in haven't been great, and West Ham have done well to deal with those. But I also think there's been a lot of times in the final third where there's just been a bit of a hit and hope. We've seen a couple of just poking it towards the general direction of the goal and hoping something happens. If they're going to lose the ball, just hooking it into the penalty area and hoping someone gets the end of it. And I think that's what Newcastle want to cut out. The decision making in front of goal is letting them down slightly. Some crosses, there have been good opportunities and the crosses just haven't come off. But there's been others where you think, did you really just need to lob the ball in there? Was that necessary? Could you have recycled it and tried to use it properly? But those things only happen because they are starting to get frustrated, because they are not finding a route to goal. They're hoping that if they just hook it in the area, something might happen. And of course, that has shown, I've seen that could potentially happen. We had the cross that was driven across the box at Cascarino, flicked only just over our own bar, could have end up in the back of the net. But those kind of balls can cause issues, but for the majority of the time, West Ham are just dealing with it. So I think decision-making in front of goal for Newcastle has got to be stronger and try and cut out the aimless long balls. If they can look to get the wide players coming inside, we know the problems that the likes of Savenius can cause. So definitely got to be better, got to be sharper, you feel, in front of goal and not as wasteful when they do get into some decent positions, because I think they've got the quality to find the back of the net here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've got the players in those attacking areas. You mentioned Una Savenius, Shania Hales as well. No, as we mentioned earlier, it's not really been her campaign, but she is still a player who can be incredibly potent in front of goal. In this game, they've not really got her on the ball yet to take a shot in this match. Just one touch in the opposition box. In fact, 7 passes completed. We've not really seen her get on the ball. 11 touches taken. We've just not seen her in this game, and that's something that's got to change. They've got to be able to pick her out. In fact, most of the times we have seen her is when she's dropped really deep to just get a touch on the ball, just create some sort of option. But when that does happen, when she does drop deep, there's got to be movement from others, because it was still too static. Whenever she would drop deep, you need Savenius then driving inside. You need Lumsden as well driving inside and creating a bit of an issue. West Ham are very comfortable in that 5-back at the moment. They can afford to double up in wide areas because they've got obviously the supporting wide centre halves, but also the wing backs. They're able to double up in wide areas. They're also then able to go player for player really in the central area, because United Hales up against Nystrom is a physical battle that Nystrom is winning quite well. So they've got to try and break that defensive line for West Ham. They've got to try and disrupt the defensive line, pull them a little bit wider, stretch that defensive line. Hale's got to be pulling them deeper with her movement, trying to sort of force that West Ham line back. That's where they'll then create the opportunities in and around the penalty area, on the edge of the box. That's where they'll get those chances. That's where they'll create the space. At the moment, it's just so compact, and the way Newcastle are playing is feeding into West Ham being able to just sit really deep, soak up that pressure, and then look to play.
Yeah, I think that West Ham have done well. Again, it's not quite what you expect when they are the bigger side in the tie to come up and play deep and play counter-attacking football, but it has worked. We know Newcastle like to have the ball, and West Ham are just trying to take advantage of when they do get caught forwards. And I think that as the half went on, West Ham did get better at playing out, did get better at progressing up the football pitch, and obviously that that leading to the goal, and then the good dominance they kind of had towards the end of the half. But yeah, it has been better. The progression has got better, and again, if they can keep getting the same players on the ball, get Sarah Bracero involved, you keep progressing out wide. Morgan's done very well on that right hand side. Asai again has had a bit of has done well on the whole on this left hand side and has got into some good opportunities and would have liked to have done more. She won the penalty, but could have definitely found the back of the net before that. So yeah, it's one of those. But I think they've just got to keep doing what West Ham. Wait till Newcastle can't put high the pitch, pounce on them, turn the ball over, and then look to counter them with pace, because it's worked well so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think West Ham have done well to break in behind. They're finding Asai in that pocket of space in behind Wardlaw. That's exactly what they want to target. We've seen actually Wardlaw do really well to recover in those situations, and she's been really tight to Asai and making life very difficult for her. The one time Asai gets away from her, it then results in a penalty, and that's something West Ham have got to look to continue to target, absolutely. But I think they've got to be mindful they can't afford to rest on their laurels, because Newcastle have been far from perfect, and they've still given a really good game to the WSL side. But yeah, it just needs to be a little bit more direct, I think, in the final third from Newcastle. Phoebe, welcome to the stream. So I think Savanius has been good. Her first touch of the game was quality. She just needs to put in crosses for more players to get on the end of. Yeah, I think we have seen them offer a fair bit of aerial threat. I think that the problem for Newcastle is that West Ham playing that 5-back, it invites those crosses quite nicely, because they've got a lot of players in there who are tall enough to deal with those situations. But yeah, the crosses have been where they've looked most dangerous, and if Hales can get away from Nystrom, can create that space, she'll be incredibly threatening from those deliveries. So there's absolutely something they can try and make something happen on. But yeah, there's been a lot of energy about Newcastle's performance. I think that's been what's really enjoyable to watch. I thought Wardlaw, up until that penalty, was fantastic. Aoife Mannion has clearly stepped up in her game as well. I thought Joel and Pike in midfield were really good. I thought Nobbs, we didn't really see the best of Jordan Nobbs in that half. We want to see her being that creative force, progressing the ball well. It actually felt like a lot of the moves broke down when they found Nobbs. I just wonder if they're forcing her into a role that isn't ideal just because of the player she is. Like, I get you want her in and around the edge of the box to create those chances, but actually having her deeper in the field may just help them progress the ball a little bit better. So I think they've wasted her in the first half. Wide threat looks sharp, but they are just lacking that final ball, that decision making in the final third.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where, as you say, it's been good, but they've got to be better in the final third. That quality will come. I think they will if they don't get a goal soon, they will turn to Murphy. They say Hales again has struggled quite a lot. I think that Murphy for Hales seems to be a very, very sensible change for me, and then someone they can look to aim for and use with these balls into the box. But I think also you drop Nobbs deeper, you put Pike higher up. I think Pike is quite good at already on 3 goals this season, I think, in the league. So if you bring Murphy on, you've got her in the 6-yard box. If Pike can be the one arriving on the edge, and then you've got Lumpton at the back post, then or if the ball's on the right hand side, you've then got Savanius with quite a lot of targets to aim for. Whereas at the moment, it feels very much let's just hook it in the general direction of Hales, who then loses the header to one of the West Ham back 3, and then Newcastle end up losing the ball. So I think definitely a better, more secure but also more purposeful approach in the final third could pay dividends. But yeah, I think the big change for Newcastle will be whenever Murphy gets introduced. If she can come on and have the kind of impact that we've seen her have for Newcastle this season, then I think that could definitely change things up and cause a few more problems for West Ham. So this game is far from over. Newcastle are right in it, and I think second half, I say they can add a bit more quality in the final third, then they could definitely end up leveling up this match pretty soon.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one to weigh up, isn't it? Because they want that physical profile of Shania Hales, but she's struggling to actually get on the ball at all. And I do worry that a player who is a bit out of form, is struggling for confidence this season, is perhaps just also going to struggle in a game like this. And actually someone in Murphy who has been much more successful in the WSL2 this season, coming into this game with a lot more confidence and belief, maybe she would have been a better option to start this game than you bring on Hales for that physical presence. You can't change that now, though, and I think Hales has got to stay on after the half. I think there is still some upside to be had from her playing in that role, and then I think you look to maybe bring on Murphy around that hour mark and see what can happen in the last 30 minutes. Perhaps the game opens up a little bit more and you can start to be a bit more transitional with it. But at the moment, you do need that presence. West Ham are still defending really deep in the field. So you need someone in there that can be a box presence, who is tall, who is physical. And then, maybe look to bring Murphy on later in the half. A few questions, by the way, about Ellen Vangerheim joining Manchester United. Obviously, that was announced today. We spoke about that a little bit on Tuesday, transfer show. We'll talk about that more on Monday's transfer show. We'll also got a video coming next week looking at it in more detail. In terms of brief opinion, it's a fantastic signing. She's a great striker. She's one of those where bangs of potential, but looking at her profile, she's already ready to come into the WSL and compete. So I've got no doubts about that being a successful deal. I think United have done really well to pull it off. She had lots of interest from top European clubs. So but we'll talk more about that in those shows, as I mentioned, and we did speak about it a little bit on Tuesday. So if you want to go and watch that back after this stream, feel free to do so. But in summary, then, Newcastle doing really well to control the ball, struggling a little bit in that final third. They've got options off the bench that could come on and make the difference. Emily Murphy, probably the best one out of those. Rita Gregory, another one they could bring on. In terms of West Ham, though, off the bench, it would be nice to see them give a few different players options. They've got youngster Emily Taylor-Brown on there, Hala Hussein, Selin Kamal. Hopefully we'll see a debut as well for Ria Bose. So do they do that soon and give those players a bit more opportunity, or do they look to kill the game off first and then see if they can rotate?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one to get right as a manager. I think because of the strength of Newcastle, back the 11 to get the job done and then look to rotate. You can go two ways about it. You can either stick with the 11 you've got and then change once you've got the result comfortable, or bring players on to help see the game through. I think it's up to, I think Guarino's got to leave the 11 out there, let them get the job done, and if they can get up to 2, if they can make it 2-3-0, then you're looking at Bose, then you're looking at Poybridge to come on and just rotate the 11 through and see the game out. But I wouldn't expect any changes for West Ham until the result's more comfortable. It may, if we do get to 60, 70 minutes and it is still one. I mean, of course, if Newcastle score, I'd expect to see changes to make a reaction. But I think West Ham have got to judge this well, because Newcastle changes will also make a difference. I think that the first 5-10 minutes of this second half are going to be absolutely massive, because we saw last night how West Brom absolutely fell apart at the start of the second half. It is vital that Newcastle come out with the same adrenaline and same energy that they did have in that first half, especially because the way that it ended, West Ham were really on top towards the end of that first half. Newcastle have got to come out and raise it again. They cannot afford to. If they slow out the blocks, West Ham will punish them, and suddenly the tie will be over. Very important that Newcastle come out sharp here in the second half, pick up where they left off in those first 20-25 minutes, and look to really take the fight to the WSL side in this game.
Yeah, it doesn't appear there'll be any immediate changes then for either side at the turn of the half. But it'll be interesting to see if we do see changes throughout the second 45. Newcastle with work to do to get themselves back level in this game. West Ham, though, still a long way for them to go in this match. They'll be keen not to let off. A win tonight would do a lot, I think, for confidence in a camp where they haven't won many games this season. They haven't been very successful in the top flight. This is a good opportunity to get a win under their belt against a very difficult opposition, it has to be said, in Newcastle. For Newcastle, this is a great way to test themselves, and they'll be hoping now that they can step it up again going into this second 45 and really make life difficult for the visitors. Newcastle going over and warming up again for the second half. West Ham have done their warm-ups, ready now in a huddle to have a conversation.
Yeah, they look like a couple of starters for Newcastle there in their training tops, but I think they were purely wearing them because they were cold at half-time, because I don't think they're bringing off 4 players.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're making any changes. West Ham do appear to be short one, though, unless I have miscounted. I think I must have miscounted there, because they didn't look like they were waiting for a sub. And Newcastle are ready to get back underway for another 45 minutes of Women's FA Cup action. But yeah, it's going to be important Newcastle, as you say, get back on it early in this second half. West Ham, they had the measure really of the game at the end of that second 45. They need to get back into it quickly, back in the swing of things, try and disrupt, as I say, that West Ham defensive line. Try and stretch the back line, try and create some opportunities for them in this second half, something a little more clear-cut. It will be West Ham to get us back underway in this fixture. From the middle. I just realised why the players dropped across the entire pitch, because the dugout's on the wrong side of the tunnel. It will be West Ham to get us back underway. Asai knocks it back, and we're underway in this second half. And it's West Ham moving the ball back towards their defence. It's Cascarino, forward pass into Bracera. Carrera's picked off there by Wardlaw, and that lumped long into King Ajemic. Now Cascarino. Sarah Bracero. Cascarino looking for the angle in behind. Nothing apparent. Now looks to hit it into Leila Vandela, who gives chase, but it's good defending from Aoife Mannion to get there. And now launched forwards by goalkeeper Tamerlan. Nice exchange here. Hales gone too early there, though, apparently. As she dropped off to receive the ball, and that will be a West Ham free kick.
Yeah, we'd like to see that one back. She must have come a long way to come and get that football.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is important. Newcastle looking to be direct Hales. Even if on the ball she can't offer a bit, anything more, just off the ball, make it more difficult. When those crosses do come in, if she's not going to get to the ball, just give Nystrom a nudge, give Cascarino a nudge, make it difficult for them. I'm not saying, not saying to go around and smash into people, but just be that bit of a presence, be unsettling.
Yeah, Matt, by the way, thank you very much for the donation of $2. Says, fun match so far. Your commentary is tops. Appreciate that greatly. As I say, all donations, all memberships go a long way to help support the show, so appreciate that a lot. West Ham out towards the right-hand side now. Morgan. Stokes wins it back. And now Lumsden driving it forwards, wins it off Endo. Here come Newcastle. Can she find the cutback across the box? Pulls it back. Chance now. And Jordan Nobbs fizzes it low, and that's saved well by King Ajemic. And a great opportunity here. Endo makes the mistake trying to deal with Lumsden. Lumsden, this is so smart, reads the cutback option, plays it to Nobbs, and she's got to do better. A player of Jordan Nobbs' calibre has got to strike that with more venom. Got to make that more difficult for King Ajemic.
Yeah, best chance of the game so far for Newcastle. I don't mind the idea. She's trying to go. She could have opened up and looked to go to the far corner, but she's trying to go back across the goalkeeper and wrong foot her. But as you say, you need more power if you're going to try and do that. Not a bad. Did well to keep it down and keep it on target, but needed to drive more through the ball. What a chance that is for Newcastle to get level. Really good start though to the second half. That'll be encouraging and sending warning signs to West Ham. But yeah, big chance for Nobbs there to level the game.
Morgan now. Sends it down the line. And now Vandela, who puts it into the box on top of the goal though, and that's out for a Newcastle goal kick. John says there's 100 people watching. I'm sure if some of you could hit the like button, it'd be much appreciated. Absolutely. Hitting that like button also helps to show the algorithm you're enjoying the show. And of course, if you are new and haven't yet hit that subscribe button, that helps us even more. So if you could do, it's completely free and it helps support the channel. Here is Perfield, pass inside to Knobs, back to Perfield. And now back into Tamerlan. Perfield again, looking to progress with that long ball in behind, and that will run through into King Ashemic. And West Ham will look to play out from this position. Bracero Carrera into Cascarino. All down the line from Hanshaw. Asai holds it up well. Asai forced back by Wardlaw. Cascarino creates the angle well. Shifts inside to Sara Bracero. And Siren goes back to Jemic. Cascarino. Now Vivian Asai. Lovely dart inside, the drop of the shoulder. And she's able to progress inside. Now switches the play, and it's Endo. Into Fionn Morgan. Ueki. Lovely turn there to find a pocket of space. Shifts it out into Estelle Cascarino, who can now make the pitch wide with Hanshaw. That's blocked well. Cascarino. And now Bracero Carrero. Wide into Morgan. Wants to take on Demi Stokes. And that delivery almost catching the goalkeeper out. Strikes the crossbar and bouncing across on the far side and out for a goal kick.
Yeah, Morgan there. Whether she meant to do this or whether the ball in was a little bit inaccurate, we won't know. But skimming the crossbar gave Tamerlan something to think about. Well watched, though, by the Newcastle goalkeeper. Didn't panic and just saw it onto the crossbar.
Yeah, it's either a terrible cross or a fantastic shot.
Yeah.
I think she's going to claim that she went for goal on that one. Ball forwards then. And it's held on too well by Savenius. Deemed a foul. Look, Bracero Carrera pleads her innocence. But her frustration is getting her nowhere with the referee, and that will be a free kick.
Yeah, she's a bit unlucky, I think, with that one. It's soft. There's contact. Savenius, though, nowhere to go. Does well to buy the free kick there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Ball drops now for Morgan. West Ham will look to play out. Savenius puts the pressure and it comes off the Finnish wide player, and that's out for a West Ham throw-in. Joe asking, is this Casper in any relation to Delphine? And as Kevin says, they are twin sisters, indeed. And Delphine Cascarino looks set for the WSL as well, as she's close to joining London City Lionesses for probably a lot of money. Sarah Carrera, that's cut out. Drops now for Leila Vandela. What can she make happen from this advanced position? Vandela takes aim from range, and that strike, a very tame one. Keen to make an impression, Vandela, but that's not a good impression.
Yeah, we spoke about tonight being a big night for Vandela, a chance to show what she's made of. Don't think she's really got on the ball or got involved with a couple of bright moments. You know, she's very good with the ball at her feet, but I don't think we've seen much more apart from that.
I'm just not sure if she's physical enough to be a striker in this division. I think she could make a really good wide play, but we're just seeing her try and hold the ball up, and she's just getting muscled off it. We're seeing her try and make that movement in behind probably isn't at the level you'd want it to be for a striker. I wonder if they could just ease that transition and just make her, or play her in the wide area for now. Because she's quick, she's got those sort of raw abilities, really strong carrier as well, but we're not really seeing her be able to do that because she keeps losing it on that first contact.
Yeah.
Cascarino into Asai, caught there again by Wardlaw. Referee thinks there's nothing wrong with it. As West Ham still in possession. Ball down the line, and Wardlaw will get there ahead of us. Asai and knock it out of play.
Yeah, again, it feels a pretty even start to the second half. Newcastle shown promise. West Ham, though, also look threatening when they come forwards. This does feel like this is a tie that could really go right down to the wire. in the towards those last few moments.
Yes, it's going to be one where the next goal is so important. I think if West Ham score soon, it could be tie over. I think they'll just be able to see it out. Of course, if Newcastle score, it's well back on. It can just make the difference so quickly. But it's part of the reason why Newcastle have just got to focus on defending at the moment, make sure they don't concede and give themselves still that opportunity to find that goal.
Yeah.
Because they're not really getting on the ball as much now. Newcastle are struggling to match the pace of West Ham in this second half.
Yeah, there's no need to go chasing or go gun-ho at this point in the game. Plenty of time remaining.
Great ball in from Asai. Ueki wins the header. Mannion muscles off Vandala though. And Tamlin out to collect the ball. And Ueki feeling the effects there. Leapt up, won the header. Just seemed to cramp up as she came back down. And Vandala will offer her assistance. Yeah, it's a great header. Just seems to overstretch, really, as she jumps.
Did very well to get that and win the header. Shane Vandala couldn't, make it work. But not the tallest player in the world, Ueki, but definitely gets herself about and is a presence up there for West Ham.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ueki will be all right to continue. And Newcastle will get us back underway. Tamarin with the drop ball. Referee just letting both sides take their shape. And now play can resume. And it's out immediately to the left-hand side. Back to goalkeeper Tamarin, who plays it out now into Mannion. Pass forwards, cut out there from Pike, and now it's West Ham who look to progress it ball through the lines. Won well by Aoife Mannion, who carries the ball forwards well. And now she'll go backwards. Phil, welcome to the show this evening. Or is it still Gorey versus the world, or are they helping her out? Well, no Katrina Gorey for West Ham this evening, which has been interesting to watch. Sara Bracera Carrera given an opportunity instead. West Ham have mainly progressed it much more directly, actually, and bypassed that midfield entirely. They're often looking just to hit the channel, and they've done it well again here. Here's Vivian Asai, cuts it back, chance of Vandala, miskicks it, Ueki now, and that's a strike of high quality from West Ham's Japanese wide player. Riko Ueki receives it on the edge, and that is a wonderful hit. And again there we see West Ham progress it quickly. They're hitting the ball into the channel from the wide centre-back into the wide forward. Asai cuts it back. Vandala can't quite convert it. It rolls through her legs. And Riko Ueki in the prime position to pick out the top left corner. Fast move from West Ham. And this stings Newcastle. Newcastle were in a position for the comeback, but this goal could put that to bed. Great strike from Ueki. Newcastle United 0, West Ham United 2.
Yeah, once again, the ball in behind Wardlaw into the path for Ueki, who cuts it back nicely. Vandala miskicks it, swings and falls over, but sets up so nicely for Ueki on the edge. No one near her, under no pressure, has the time to look up and just curl it towards that top corner. Really well struck, no chance for Tamarin. And West Ham, as you say, speaking about a comeback, speaking about this game potentially becoming nervy, that is a really big goal. Good reaction from West Ham after what was a difficult first half an hour in this game, but they've done well and now they're in control.
It's a top draw effort from Riko Ueki. Just wrapped her foot around the ball and arrowed it really into that top corner. Difficult for Townsend to do anything about it. Defence needed to act quicker on that one. And a lot of work now for Newcastle doing. You can sense the frustration, a foul there in the immediate aftermath. And a free kick now for West Ham. Yeah,
they've got to react, Newcastle. They can't, now this is where we can see the lower league side start to just unwind and get caught up in a drubbing, in a game that really did, shouldn't have got out of hand. It's important Newcastle react now in the right way.
Yeah, Joel into Mannion. Now wide to Wardlaw. Plays it down the line. Savenius back into Mannion. who wants to lift it in behind, headed down by Morgan. Hanshaw. Now Cascarino. A pass inside to Vanderloo, who can receive under less pressure. Drives it forward, shifts it wide. Right decision that time from Leila Vanderloo. Now Vivian Asai. And you can feel the energy sucked out of this Newcastle team. West Ham just given a little more time to operate with it. Rosero Carrera tries to drive it forwards. Mannion turns it over. And Newcastle now will look to play forward. Mannion carries it well. Out now into Una Savenius with a one-on-one against Hanshaw. Chops inside. Rosero Carrera, though, in her way. And Newcastle forced backwards. Mannion. Perfield. They've got to move the ball quicker, though, Newcastle. West Ham are a side who can be picked apart defensively, but Newcastle, every time they get into the opposition half, just slow it down to almost a crawl. Ueki, brilliant job there to get back in and win the ball. Here's Leila Vanderloo, good hold up from the Swiss forward. Nystrom. Now Cascarino, who knocks it wide. Hanshaw pass inside, picked off in there, and Hales holds up the ball, only to be brought down by Una Siren.
Changes have got gone for Newcastle now. They need a bit of energy, and Hales again didn't a difficult 45 minutes, and then again this second half hasn't really got involved. I think double change. You bring on Gregory, you bring on Murphy, and potentially that bit of energy in the front line could cause some problems for West Ham. Make those changes while it could still have an impact, because if you make changes and get a goal from it, you're right back in the game. Don't wait, and then suddenly you could be 3-0 down and you're out of the game.
Ento. Held on to brilliantly by Vanderloo, who spins now, and it's Asai on the ball, who takes aim straight down the throat of goalkeeper Tamerlan.
Yeah, again, really tidy from Vanderloo. Much better. She's starting to get a bit of room to work with, and she's really enjoying it. And there, a good piece of footwork. Nice through ball to Asai, who couldn't quite beat the keeper.
Mannion. Out to the right-hand side, Savenius, who chops in. And now looking to knock out to the left-hand side, Newcastle, Stokes. Knobs. Perfield. Again, surveying her options, looking to progress the ball. Here's Aoife Mannion. Yeah, Kevin in the live chat saying it's time for Murphy.
Speaking of, I think that's down on the near side, ready to come on.
Yeah, it does look like it. It looks like Murphy and Elisa Body to me. So that'll be a change in midfield and a change up front. That's a bit of energy, I think, that Newcastle are sorely lacking at the moment. I think they will be stopped here to make those changes before this throw-in. So looking for sub. Shania Hales making way. Struggled really to hold on to the ball. Struggled to get involved in this game. Will be replaced now by the Irish forward, Emily Murphy. And then it looks like it'll be a change in midfield as well. And it will be Joel who departs. She's had a brilliant game in there, has to be said. But she will make way in her place. It's Alicia Body.
Yeah, right changes. You feel bit of energy in midfield. And Murphy, who has caused a lot of problems for a lot of teams this season, both on the domestic and international stage.
Nigel says, yes, lads, thought Newcastle could actually pose an upset here. Guess not. Well, they competed well. It was a West Ham goal that came from the penalty spot that could have just took the momentum out of them. Until that point, though, West Ham were not really in this game. I mean, the poll in chat shows that you weren't alone in thinking they could pull off an upset. 56% going for Newcastle tonight. I mean, at any rate, at this point, it feels that West Ham winning is the upset.
Yeah.
The amount of people that I've seen predict Newcastle would win this game. Hooked away there by Eva Nystrom, and that will be a throw-in now on this near side. Stokes, held up well by Nobbs. Stokes, back to Jordan Nobbs. Ball towards the edge of the box, and it struck, and that's over the bar, and Body's first touch could have been one of glory, but just leans back there and lifts it over the bar.
Yeah, it would have been a great introduction. Lumsden cuts it back all the way to the edge of the area, and it's set up nicely for her. Just leans back, looks to go for a placement, and just ends up sailing over the bar. Would have liked to get the Body over that, drive her power through it, and look to beat Zhemic with pace. But not a bad effort. It's not a bad effort, and it's probing again for Newcastle.
It's just been that clinicality. West Ham have had the penalty and they've had the shot from Ueki, and we see the quality prevail in those moments. They didn't miss with those opportunities. Newcastle, they've had the same amount of shots. They've put one less on target, but they've not troubled the goalkeeper in the same way. They've been tamer efforts from the Toon. Ball back all the way now to Tamanen, who plays it into Mannion. Back to Tamanen, under pressure from Asayi, who almost picks off the ball there and does force a mistake from the goalkeeper. Here's Morgan. Ball into the box is dealt with. Drops again now for Aoife Morgan. Not Aoife Morgan, apologies. Mixing players there. Siren goes back to Endo. Asayi, hold up, it's good. Pass isn't. Savenius now into Murphy, who makes the run into this right channel. Needs support, though. Goes all the way back into Mannion. Now into Savenius, who couldn't quite hold on to the ball in there.
I think that was quite negative from Murphy. Got to back herself there to take on.
I think she could have turned. She had she had sort of the time to turn. And the way West Ham defend this season, I'd have backed her in the one-on-one.
Yeah.
Especially against Hanshaw. I'm back in there well by Mannion. Body. Stokes. Back into Pursfield. Mannion on to Wardlaw. Mannion again. Shifts it forwards. Body, that's a loose touch. Ueki wins it back. Now Siren. Nystrom. Here's Cascarino. And it's Rosario Carrera. Lovely turn in there from the youngster. Spins out of trouble. Wardlaw brings her down afterwards. That'd have liked to be a yellow after the play, but West Ham in behind now. Vandela, that runs away from her.
Yeah, Wardlaw's had a couple where she's stepped up, gone chasing, and either been caught out or committed a foul. And it's been very lucky so far to avoid a yellow card this evening. Yes, there's been really good moments from Wardlaw, good defending. There's a couple like there. She's gone chasing Bracero and then been spun and caught out of position.
Indeed, Asayi pokes it to Ueki, overlapping now Endo. Inside, to Morgan. Makes the inverted run. Morgan goes back to Nystrom. And now Cascarino. Nystrom. Cascarino. Pass into Ueki, who goes out wide into Verena Hanshaw. Great turn in there from Leila Vandela, who gets away there from the foul of Wardlaw. Vandela darts inside. Wardlaw does really well to recover with a clean tackle in the penalty area.
Yeah, really good recovery. Once again, though, steps up, gets caught out, commits the foul. Vandela managed to continue. Well recovered, though. Does want to just get up and get back at it. Cascarino a swing and a miss, and then the flag goes up again. This time on Murphy, not sure about that one. But yeah, Wardlaw has had I think this whole moment describes perfectly our evening. Steps up initially, gets caught out. Vandela's then running into the penalty area, and she comes back in with a really well-timed challenge. I think that passage there sums up how our evening's gone. Some of it's been really good, calm, sensible defending, and other bits have just been a bit rushed, jumping up and getting it, very wrong.
Yeah, indeed. 23 minutes to play, then you've got to think Newcastle need a goal quickly if they're going to fight their way back into this tie.
Bit of good reaction from conceding the second. It's still a pretty even game, but they haven't, as I said, they haven't slumped. They haven't just throwing in the towel and allowing West Ham to run right. They're sticking in there.
Endo. Sheeran dispossessed. Here come Newcastle. Nobbs into Murphy. Tries to go back to Nobbs, but she doesn't continue her run.
Yeah, miscommunication there between the two of them. But again, I think Murphy has got to try and do a bit more there. You can't expect Jordan Nobbs to continue what was already a very mazy dribble.
Yeah,
Just got to talk to each
she
other.
needs some sort of support, though.
Yeah.
In that position, she was wide. Nowhere really to turn on that occasion. And Nobbs didn't continue that run. So that was a bit more of a difficult one, I feel. Throw in on this near side. West Ham progressing it once again. And it's Morgan. He's trying to take a bit of liberty with where this throw-in is positioned. Great throw in behind. Vandela battles away for the ball. Does really well in there, Leila Vandela. Now Vivian Asai. Morgan. Back to Endo. Nystrom. Cascarino as they shift from right to left. Cascarino's going to go out into Uweki. Back to Cascarino. It's interesting how much Guarino loves Uweki as that sort of midfield player. Brilliant press here from Murphy, who nicks it off Nystrom. Needs the support. Shots back in. Chance now. Should score. What a save from King Ojemic, who manages just about to push it onto the post. And Murphy's got to go across goal there. Great pressure. Nystrom's touch is loose. The pass then cut out brilliantly by Murphy. She chops inside and just goes near post. Jemic spills it onto the post. And what a chance. You won't get a better chance than that. And a chance to put the game to bed, and it's there. And we are watching replays, but it's 3-0 West Ham. So quickly. After Newcastle missed a chance to get back in this game. West Ham put it completely to bed.
No, I
Sara Bracero Carrera with their first goal for the Hammers as they quickly move from back to front. What a miss from Newcastle. Murphy missing at the near post, saved well by Jemic. They go quickly long. Vandela battles away against Wardlaw. Does really well to hold it up into Asai, who shifts it to Bracero Carrera. That's a really tidy finish from the West Ham midfielder.
Yeah, really good back to front football from West Ham. And the harshness of knockout football at the end of the day. Newcastle with a massive chance to go only one behind, and then up the other end, minute later, game's put to bed. Wardlaw again, long ball gets caught, actually turns around, hits her on the back of the head, runs through to Vandler. She then takes Vandler out, the advantage is played. Ball gets shifted to Asai, into Bracero, but disappointing for Newcastle. What a chance. Vandler is the one replaced by Poibel as well after that goal. But what a chance for Murphy. The form she's been in, the opportunity presented itself. I think Shemmick gets away with one massively, spills it, hits the inside of the post, managed to claw it off the line. Could have been such a different game if that goes in.
Yeah, it's matter of moments really. That could have been 2-1. It's 3-0 now. I think it's a kind of harsh result on Newcastle, not a fair reflection of their performance, especially in the first half. But it's been ruthless from West Ham in front of goal. The combinations have been much better in the final third, and the finishes have been really strong. And this is a much better performance for Rita Guarino's side. In the early stage, they struggled to get going, but they weathered that early storm from Newcastle. And they do now have a comfortable, and you'd have to say at this stage in the game, insurmountable lead.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed. It's it's got the 3-0 with 18 minutes to go. It could even be more, but it isn't that kind. I spoke about, so it isn't that kind of game. Still had the same amount of shots. West Ham putting one more on target, but the difference is that West Ham put 3 of them in the back of the net. One being a penalty and one being a great goal from Uweki. That goal was a bit more disappointing from a Newcastle point of view, because they've that was a mistake out wide, and no one tracks the running of Bracero. That one was poor goal. The first two goals, I'm not sure Newcastle could have done much more to prevent. But yeah, that's knockout football at the end of the day. That's what happens when you come up against these bigger sides. If you don't take your chances, they will punish you when they get opportunities to score themselves. And yeah, that's exactly what's happened here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you put the nail on the head. It's a side who have the quality in attack. That's a goal and 2 assists tonight from Vivian Asai. I think it speaks volumes. A player of her quality shining on this stage. Goals as well from Rika Ueki and Brasaro Carrera, both really well taken efforts. And they made the difference tonight. I didn't think West Ham were brilliant defensively. I don't think they were brilliant playing the ball through the lines, but they got the goals and they capitalised really well on Newcastle errors particularly.
Yeah, and this is the West Ham that we got used to seeing last season, where they didn't create much, and they had some games where they weren't brilliant, but when they did get an opportunity, they took it. I think about the Arsenal game at Meadow Park last season for West Ham, where it was 5-2, 4-2, or 4-3, absolute thriller of a game, and that was decided by Kirsty Smith catching the ball in a penalty area to give away a penalty in the last minute. But that game, West Ham had barely any chances, but they scored 3 goals because they were really clinical. This is the West Ham that we saw last season, where even when they do struggle, even when they don't create much, they've got the quality in the front line that they will score any chance they get. And again, I mentioned it earlier, Vivian Asai has got the quality to take this game by the scruff of the neck. That's exactly what she's done. She's the kind of player that has the quality just to put defences to the sword. And yeah, really clinical from West Ham. And Newcastle will be frustrated, because if they'd had the West Ham front line that has turned up for the rest of the games this season, then this might have been a very, very different game. But West Ham are on it tonight, and they're really taking advantage of that.
Yeah, indeed. Changes now, and they're going to look to bring in some young players. It's Hala Hussein on for Rico Ueki. Ueki there went down with a knock. Hoping nothing serious, because really strong performance from her this evening, particularly the goal, which was really well taken. So nice to see Hussein get an opportunity in midfield.
Mm.
And West Ham taking liberty now with the fact they have a fairly comfortable lead. Morgan goes down the line. It's a Sayi. Great hold up there from the French attacker. Sees it out of play, and that will be a West Ham throw.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shuffle in the front line with Toybal and Hussein coming on, but
Change as well for Newcastle going for the game a little bit. Gregory coming on for Demi Stokes at left back. Ball into the box now from Poybal. And that's hooked away haphazardly by Gregory.
Not what you want from your first touch, but it gets the job done, I suppose. But yeah, Newcastle will want to keep going. I think that they're deserving of a goal, and they'll also want to make sure that this doesn't get silly, because this game is the kind of game it wouldn't represent their quality.
Ball in from Morgan, headed away. Another look to break. Here come Newcastle knobs. Into Murphy, who takes it past a player now. Really good defending though from Cascarino. Murphy cuts it back. Savenius strikes and it's blocked. Murphy now again. Who takes it past Hussein. Ball into the box, headed away well.
I think Murphy should have started. I really do. Just again, looks to be lively. You can tell she's a player that's in good form. You can tell she's a player that's had a good season.
I think it's one of those, and there's opening few moments when West Ham were there for the taking, it felt. We could have seen Newcastle have a bit more dynamism in that front line, have someone who's making those runs, and they could have capitalised on perhaps West Ham being a little sloppy. You only saw the impact since Murphy's come on, but she's had an opportunity where she could have brought them right back into the game. Unlucky not to finish that one off, but it came from her persistent pressing, and they've lacked that in the early stages. West Ham bring on Murphy, and they've looked. Newcastle bring on Murphy looked a much stronger side for it.
Yeah, it's the biggest way to put off an upset. Is to take advantage of a slow start, score early. How many times do we see? The majority of upsets in football will be when the smaller sides score early, have something to defend, and then they hold on. I mean, and I think that was the problem. They didn't take advantage while they could. They allowed West Ham to get into the game, and then West Ham kind of taking advantage of that. And then in the second half, it's opened up a bit more, become a bit. Both sides playing with a bit more freedom, and the difference is that West Ham just taking their chances and Newcastle haven't. But yes, a difficult one. Again, there Murphy's hit the ball in. Apparently, it ran out of play before she could put it in. Bit unlucky.
Yeah. It's been interesting to watch. I think Newcastle obviously came into this game and wanted to play their brand of football. They didn't get that goal early on, and because they're playing quite heavy possession-based football, it does leave those gaps for West Ham to exploit. I think 3-0 flatters the Hammers. They've done really well, though, to exploit on West Ham, on Newcastle mistakes. I think all the goals, Wardlaw committing the foul for the penalty, Wardlaw struggling to do that ball in behind, then gets cut back, and Ueki's able to score, and then a really quick move from West Ham. That's probably the best goal of the game. It was that last one to Sara Bracero. But that comes after Newcastle have just missed a great chance. The focus wasn't there, and West Ham capitalised on that moment. So this is the West Ham. I think you mentioned it a few moments ago. Who we're used to seeing last season. They're really good at being defensive, soaking up the pressure, and then springing quickly on the counter charge.
Yeah.
This season, that's been clunky, and that hasn't really worked. And defensively, they haven't been organised. This could be a huge confidence boost for them, though. We're seeing that clinicality and attack return. They've not had an abundance of opportunities in this football match, just 7 shots, less in fact than Newcastle's 8, but 2 big chances, 0 missed, 1.23 XG created. They've been clinical with their chances.
Yeah, and again, that's what wins you football games at the end of the day. I think that 3-0 is a harsh result for Newcastle, but you get punished in football when you don't take your chances.
Yeah, indeed. One big chance all game for Newcastle. That, of course, the opportunity for Murphy right towards the end there. Just a complete shift in the second half, really. West Ham have dictated the ball, 58% possession to 42% in the first half. That was it's been a huge swing. In the first half, that was 54% for Newcastle. So they've just swung this game in their favour massively. That they have, West Ham. So they've done well to wrestle back control, because Newcastle did really well in the opening stages.
Yeah, that minute where West Ham scored their third goal and Murphy missed that big chance, that was it. Because if Murphy puts that in, that is 2-1. It's a different game.
Great drive here from Gregory, looking to create something now for Newcastle. A goal at this late stage would likely mean little for the result, but would be a source of pride. The ball in, blocked away.
I think it's also encouraging that they've managed to play their football and compete. You know, a lot of these sides in these kind of ties just opt to put 11 players on the goal line and hold on for dear life. But no, they've come in, they've tried to play their football, and for the most part, they've been able to play pretty successfully.
Yeah, indeed. It does feel, though, the chances...
Oh my days.
Jemic clears it into Murphy. And he blocks it back towards the goal, and it just bounces wide. A bit fortunate there again, King of Jemic.
Deja vu from last weekend, where she booted the ball into Lauren James and it went in the back of the net. But
Endo sells her a dream.
That sums up the night there for Newcastle. That sums up the night, because we saw with Lauren James and Chelsea last weekend. If it's going your way and you're high flying, that just goes into the back of the net. But that one there clears, hits Murphy and goes past the post.
Yes, indeed. West Ham have the same issues, though. Trying to play out. Ball into the box now. Murphy tries to flick it onto a teammate there. She's changed this game so much. Just giving him someone to aim for in the penalty area. Movement is just top notch. Should have started. I have to feel that that's a big mistake on the part of Tanya Oxtoby. I understand the thinking of going for Shania Howe's a physical forward today, but ball into the area. Great knock, headed away by Nystrom. Flicked on well by Brasara Carrero. And great hold up in there from Poibel. Morgan launches it forwards, looking for Vivian Asai. Dealt with well by Aoife Mannion.
And even though it isn't the result that Newcastle wanted, this will be a performance that they can try and also take a bit of momentum into next weekend against Charlton. That's a massive game. A Charlton side that are romping the league at the minute, haven't lost a game yet.
Yeah,
but they'll believe they can try and take something off them next weekend.
Absolutely. It does feel, as I was going to say before Murphy almost deflected in a goal, that our chances of seeing an upset this weekend are diminishing now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow probably provides the next best opportunity as Sunderland take on London City Lionesses. London City under new management in Eder Maestro didn't look brilliant. In fact, looked terrible against Liverpool. It has to
Had
be
a
said.
shot. If they only have one shot tomorrow, Sunderland have got a very...
Classifying that as a shot was kind.
But if London City only have one shot tomorrow, Sunderland will have a great chance.
Indeed they will. Outside of that, Sunday's billing, we could see Leicester in an all-WSL clash against Tottenham, though their weak performance last weekend doesn't give me much faith in that. Nottingham Forest against Brighton, if Brighton over-rotate potentially. I don't see London Bees pulling off an upset. Don't see Burnley beating Manchester United. And other than that, it's probably the all-WSL clash between Arsenal and Aston Villa. Where is it really an upset at this point to see Aston Villa beat Arsenal? I don't think there's too much of a gap between those two sides. Here is Knobs. Out wide. Ball into... Oh, lovely cut back there from Lumsden. That's claimed well, though. Right, Shemik is trying to put the ball across the box.
Yeah, I have to give massive credit to Newcastle for this. They're still going. They're still fighting away, and again, this shows their quality. Mentioned it earlier. They haven't just folded. They haven't just accepted the fact they're out of this game. They keep battling. They want a goal. They want to try and take something from this game, even if it isn't a place in the fifth round. They'll be disappointed they haven't found the back of the net with the chances they've had.
Yeah, indeed. Hold up strong from Asayi. That's cleared into Asayi. And that will be a Newcastle throw. Let's go down the right wing. Battled away. That will be a slight frustration there from the fullback there from West Ham.
I think Baluma was lucky that she threw that straight at Wardlaw, because if that had gone wide, probably got booked for it.
And Baluma goes down there under a little pressure. Priscilla Carrera dispossessed, and it swung back well in there by Verena Hanshaw. Pass out wide into Fionn Morgan. Great pressure from Gregory. Morgan, though, had to play out of it. Hala Hussein back inside now to Morgan, who drives forwards with the ball. Poibel. Una Siren. Pass out to the left-hand side. Here's Ines Balumu. Hussein. Siren. Knocks it out to the right wing. Morgan in behind, and Poibel gutted there. She didn't continue her run.
Yeah, brilliant passage from West Ham there. Really encouraging football. And I think that the Rita Guarino effect is just rubbing off a little bit in this game. Lovely football. Hussein as well. Looks like an incredible talent. Very sharp in this little cameo.
Yeah. Cleared forwards there by Newcastle. Here's Murphy. Great hold up. Body. Pass inside again now. Knobs. Shifts it to the wide player. Nice stuff there from Murphy in this wide position. Headed away well by Nystrom. Shot now from Pike. Oh, wide of the mark. Struck it with some venom, but unable to find the target.
Yeah, caught it nicely. Kept it down as well. Just wide of the goal. This will give us a good... Oh, yeah, just bent away. Not a bad effort at all.
Had the dip, had the swerve. Just didn't quite drop in the back of the net.
Play Shemik will happily watch that sail just past the post, but yeah, that hadn't curved as away as it had, and I don't think should have got that. And again, another opportunity where you just think, what if for Newcastle?
At this late stage, it would matter very little, but indeed they have had their misfortune in front of goal. Knobs, nice exchange with Pike. Now Gregory, poked out a play by Hussein. The big what if moment will be if that Murphy chance goes in.
Oh yeah,
bury that. It's game on.
Difference between 2-1 is an FA Cup tie. Going down to the wire 3-0 is game set match, and football is like that sometimes.
Ball down the line, and that's over here. Pike won't get there.
I know West Ham are probably taking their foot off the gas, but this last 10, 15 minutes has been all Newcastle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that, yeah, as you say, they've relaxed, they've made some changes.
Mm.
But yeah, we have seen a vast improvement from Newcastle at this late stage.
Yeah, just feels like they'll know they had a good opportunity. They'll be frustrated, but I think and they'll learn from it. But I think they'll also take the positives. And it's the kind of game where I mentioned it at the very top of the show, but you know, a game like this or a similar quality could be the
Mobs now from range, claimed easily by King Ajemic.
But a game like this could be the relegation playoff between the WSL and the WSL 2. And you think, yes, it's been 3-0, but one of them was a penalty. One of them was a brilliant strike from Ueki. So I think that it's one of those where if it was to be this game once again come the end of the season, I think it would be another really competitive match.
Yeah.
So, yeah, encouraging signs for not only Newcastle, but the rest of the sides further down the pyramid that, if the likes of Newcastle can get up into the WSL this season, I think they've got what it takes to compete. They've shown that tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the reason that we're seeing now the expansion of the Women's Super League, moving next season from 12 teams to 14 teams. In fact, I think any of the top 5 in the WSL 2 could come in and compete. It's quite interesting at the moment because you've got Charlton's at top, and I probably feel they're the side with the least chance of coming up and being able to compete, just because there won't be that level of investment. I look at their current squad, and they haven't got much WSL experience. It just feels like they'd struggle to come up and be a force. But obviously with Birmingham now, with the American and the consortium investment, Bristol City's women's side is now owned separately by Mercury 13. Newcastle, of course, a Saudi-backed football club. 5 minutes of additional time at the end of this match. Here's Murphy carrying it forwards. Brilliant job from Una Siren to win it back, and Jemic chooses the safe option this time and smashes it towards the burger stand. Some fella there sat in his van was slightly worried as that ball was flying towards him. A nice little row of all the important vehicles there at the ground: an ambulance, a burger stand, an ice cream van.
3 things you need at a football game. Some may argue.
Ball through the lines and not quite able to hold on to that one. Here's Lumsden.
She's looked sharp tonight, Lumsden. I think a player who's enjoyed a decent season has probably, apart from Murphy coming on and looking very dangerous, I think Lumsden's probably been the most dangerous for Newcastle tonight and the most threatening towards the West Ham goal.
Matt says 19-year-old Rhea Bowes has 340,000 Instagram followers, 100k more than the West Ham women's team.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And a good footballer as well, not just an Alicia Lehman. I think we should make that abundantly clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a real good signing from West Ham, bringing in Bowes, someone who thrived, of course, in the academy setup. At Chelsea, ended up moving to Sporting Club de Portugal, searching for more consistent game time and opportunity in the first team. Now returns to the WSL with West Ham. A great placement, really, for Annie Denton. We'll talk more about that on the transfer show on Monday. To join us for that, so we'll round up all the rumours, all the gossip, all the done deals in this WSL winter window. Foul there from Vivian Asai, and that is a Newcastle free kick. Kevin says, do you agree with Asai as player of the match? It's hard to disagree. A goal and 2 assists. I still don't. I don't love Vivian Asai's attitude. I think that the way she tries to buy fouls is just cheap. I don't think she needs to sort of resort to that. But her performance was strong tonight. Cut above the rest, really, and that quality made the difference.
Yeah, it's one of those where you have to be a special kind of player to kind of have that arrogance and that maybe a bit of pettiness. Obviously tonight she's delivered, so you can walk off and say fair play. But how many times is that the Chelsea game, for example, rolling around, getting involved in skirmishes and off the ball stuff and spending more time complaining. You can't do that if you're not going to back out with goals. Tonight she's done that, and fair play to her. But yeah, you can't when you do kind of carry yourself like that on a pitch, you've then got to make sure you back it up and deliver by, still providing for the team.
Ball fed through the lines, an opportunity, quick off the line there. Goalkeeper Tamanum.
Yeah, Bracero there in for what could have been a second goal.
I think she's really sharp tonight. Someone I think deserves more of an opportunity.
Yeah.
Playing a deeper role than perhaps you'd expect her to thrive in. But I think when she's got forward, she's really been able to contribute for them.
Yeah.
Here's Poibel. Morgan. Pass all the way back now to King Ajemic. Nystrom. Now Endo. Picked off too easily in there. And now a chance for Murphy, who lays it off the knobs. And that's cleared away. Ball out to the left-hand side. Cascarino. Cascarino looks like a good signing for West Ham, I have to say. A smart piece of recruiting. Ball in behind. Chance now for Newcastle. Lumsden trying to create space for the shot. Endo gets back in there. Still going though, Lumsden takes aim and they're being dragged down in the process and firing wide. But yeah, I think Estelle Cascarino adds a solidity that West Ham haven't really had so far this season. Obviously, Tisiak leaving is a loss. It is a huge loss for them. But I think bringing Cascarino, a player who has experience at some really top levels, is exactly what they need, especially with how Rita Guarino wants this team to function, wants this team to play. It's a really important signing. I don't think West Ham centre-halves have been good enough across the board this year. Even Tisiak, who I do think of quite highly. So yeah, they needed reinforcements. I think they get exactly that from Cascarino, but not only reinforcement, but improvement in that area.
Yeah, exactly that. They're in a situation, West Ham, where they need players of decent quality that can come in and deliver for them. Even in Cascarino alone, just in the short term to keep them in the league. And in the summer, they can look to properly rebuild and bring in players that Rita Guarino wants to have a project and be successful with.
Yeah, indeed. West Ham on the ball now then, Siren. And it's out wide into Uendo. Sane on to Morgan. Lovely football here from West Ham. And it's inside now to Asai. Holds it up. Ball across the box. That's blocked though. And then cleared away. And Asai will see it out well for a corner. And will they take this corner or will they call it a day there? Because we are now beyond the stoppage period. Asai doesn't really want to take it. She's in no rush. And West Ham are in no rush, really. This game is done. And I assume as soon as this is kicked, Brainer Hanshaw to take, that will likely be all she wrote for this one. It's laid to Asai. And that is the final whistle here at the Gateshead International Stadium. Newcastle United 0, West Ham United 3. A commanding victory in the end for the WSL side, who, despite not being convincing in stages, were ruthless, were clinical in front of goal. Vivian Asai with a goal and 2 assists. Sara Bracero Carrera with another. Enrico Ueki, a fantastic strike as well. And West Ham comfortably through into the Women's FA Cup 5th round. So that is everything for tonight's stream, Harry. Newcastle were good in patches, but ultimately West Ham, the quality prevailed for them.
Yeah, exactly that. A game that could have gone either way, but the clinicality of a WSL side really shining through. Credit to Newcastle. They gave Rita Guarino and the Hammers a very good game. On another day, potentially could have gone the other way. Massive chance for Murphy at 2-0 to make it 2-1, and then you missed that a minute later. West Ham got their end and make it 3-0. Football is a very harsh game sometimes, and that minute there completely decided the tie. If it goes 2-1, it's suddenly game on. But Newcastle played well, more shots than West Ham in the end. Just couldn't take their clinicality. Won West Ham this game at the end of the day. Fair play to the Hammers. Big win for them. They need to take momentum from that. But Newcastle, they can take the positives from what was a decent performance against stronger opposition tonight.
Yeah, Indeed, it was. That is everything Matt says. Thanks so much. See you Sunday. Speaking of which, join us this Sunday for the last Women's FA Cup tie of the fourth round. It's Arsenal taking on Aston Villa. Going to be a tough game for the Gunners. Facing WSL opposition and a Villa side who know and have experience of taking points off Arsenal. So we'll see what can happen on Sunday. Join us for that game. That, though, is everything. We're back this week with yet more streams. On Monday, we're back with the Women's Football Transfer Show. On Wednesday, it's the start of the Women's League Cup semi-finals. Harry will be running you through all of that, covering Chelsea, Man City, and keeping tabs on Man United, Arsenal, before we're back next weekend as the WSL returns. That, though, is everything. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.